Hey guys, we're getting started in just a minute here. If you could please like and share the stream, get it visible, please. I would love to grow this community. Please and thank you. You guys have been awesome. You guys are always awesome. I hope you're feeling awesome today because you're all looking fucking gorgeous. Hey Mackenzie, how's it going? Hope you're all feeling good, because you're looking good. You're looking frickin' fantastic right now. Yes! Hell yeah! Gotta make sure my cam is working. Come on. We can do this. Hey, look at me. Well. Hey guys. I hope everyone's doing well. Let you see a little bit more of both my pretty face and my cool room, if you're feeling particularly English about things. I'm Goose. What's up? We're gonna let the music drift down very dramatically, ever so dramatically. And what's up? Today we're gonna talk about, well, YouTube. We're on YouTube. Hi. Hello. And we're gonna talk about YouTube. Isn't that crazy? What we're gonna talk about in terms of YouTube is YouTube's got a little bit of a Nazi problem. You got a little bit of a Nazi problem. You got a little bit of a... what would you call it? Would you call it a racist authoritarian problem? Would you call it a nationalistic, fascistic? What would you call it necessarily? I would say it's probably just a Nazi problem. I think it's just best to kind of sum it up that way. You know, it makes it feel easier. It rolls off the tongue. I think so. Yeah, I think we'll just call it that. YouTube's got a Nazi problem. It's got a bit of a Nazi problem. Just making sure that all of my titles and all that kind of stuff is working. Please share the stream to help raise its visibility. Basically, if you guys are watching, I would really appreciate it if you share the stream, increase the visibility, get it to get into that stratosphere of the YouTube algorithm. We are all at a slave to its whims. So it'd be super awesome if you guys enjoy the stream, if you enjoy looking at stuff that might potentially be concerning to people who are afraid that militaristic anti-democratic parties are trying to quash our democracy, then feel free. How's it going, Helmet? Appreciate it. How is it hanging? I hope that you're doing well. I don't know what's transpired since we last talked, but I remember that you were going through some shit, and I hope things are going better. But it's good to see you. Yeah, apparently it's got a Nazi problem, and we're going to find out just a little bit about it. A person commented on one of my VODs, and I learned about this particular channel. If you don't see it on the screen here, it is Keletanian Chronicles. My voice caught. Keletanian Chronicles. So I wasn't really sure. They just kind of, it was a notification that I got, and it was this username here. I don't know if you can see it, but the username is really interesting. It's Aryan Privilege is the username. And let me just give you a little snippet of the comment that they left on my page. Just a little snippet here. Just a little, I'm sure you can see the wall of text there, but just a little snippet, okay? Tell me if this sounds hinged or not, okay, you guys? This was just a random comment on one of my previous live streams. They went to a previous live stream to watch it and then comment this, alright? Fascism returned the monetary creation to people not special, giant, wealthy few. Ended cause of wars, improved standard of living for all. Zero unemployment, houses, owned vehicles, a dream come true, one income supported family. Paid house, cheaper with each child. Yeah. Sorry, there we go. I want to turn the music down a little bit. The stolen government was returned through vote fountain of human suffering plugged, so they had to destroy, always destroy saviors, the tolerant intolerant left, right, yet provided better standards than any, including us, economic miracles, science leapt and century. A century? No, it's like it's the weird symbol for A with the line above it. Anywho, I think it's pretty easy to see that, I had to check this out. I had to check this username out. And so I did. And they had a playlist. It sounds like they need some help. I agree. I don't know if you can... I know that my UI is pretty small, and so it might be pretty hard to read what those playlists say, but here's one, if you couldn't tell. And then the one over here is another pretty interesting one. I'll just go ahead and see if I can... There you go. You can read now what that says. Israelites are not Jews. Jews are not chosen, or people claim to be. Yeah. So, I clicked on the playlist, and it brought me to this account. So that's what we're looking at today. We're going to look at this account. It is interesting, to say the least. As you can see, I've watched one of these, and then I think I watched a couple further down. Oh, man. It's pretty crazy. Ethnicity and heritage, the clash over Homer's Odyssey. White people versus evil. How we saved you from yourselves. So we're going to start with that one.
First battle against pure evil. Tophet, the charming little shrine of Kronos. When war, famine, or plague rolled in, the Phoenicians would apparently look at their children and think, firewood with legs. Nothing says civilization like roasting toddlers to keep the gods happy. What lovely neighbors to have.
So, the Phoenicians. Who were the Phoenicians? The Phoenicians were an ancient Semitic-speaking maritime civilization based on the Levantine coast. They were renowned traders, sailors, and engineers who established a vast commercial network and colonies across the Mediterranean, including Carthage. They are best known for creating the first widely used phonetic alphabet. Okay. What skin color were the Phoenicians? Olive/tan skin. Okay, so a little bit darker than white people. And now let's see what they did, apparently. Phoenician ritual mask, likely used in ceremonies linked to sacrifice and worship. Its exaggerated grin and hollow eyes were meant to invoke fear and channel the presence of the gods. Right, but weren't meant to be eating children.
Picture it, a giant bronze statue, arms outstretched like some benevolent uncle, except the hands were tilted conveniently downward into a blazing pit. Place your darling child in its palms, give it a shove, and whoosh, down Junior goes into the barbecue. Efficient, really. The first slide and grill combo. Plutarch explains the cruelty. With full knowledge and understanding, they themselves offered up their own children, and those who had...
This is all to say, I guess, really, the first thing that I should mention here is that this person is seemingly forgetting that there's plenty of atrocities that Christianity is guilty of, but also just not to mention the fact that people don't necessarily do everything that they see either ordered or depicted in their holy texts. Not everyone is super zealous and believes that their holy text should be taken literally or should be followed to the T. I think what you have to do in order to I guess accept that these people are doing this is you would have to both forget and accept that rituals exist on both sides. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted here. I'm trying to make sure that my title... I don't know if the word Nazi is going to be acceptable on either Twitch or YouTube, so I'm just putting a little censor there. Censorship star. Just in case any disgruntled peoples decide that they want to try and report my channel, Just in case. You never know. I want to try and cover my bases here. Alright, we got it. We're good. Alright, so we will start the video once again. Hang on. So if we are to assume that the Phoenicians are sacrificing children, then we must also assume that the Christians are taking slaves. If we are to assume that the Sodomites and the Canaanites and whoever are sacrificing children and incesting each other, then we also need to assume that child murder is happening, child brides are happening, in the Christian Bible, being so executed, and to me it feels like that's a bunch of hypocrisy. You don't know that the people next to you are, in the town next to you, are committing atrocities. You simply assume they are. And the account of just one person, Plutarch in this case, doesn't necessarily mean that an entire civilization is guilty of some atrocious crime. It means that a group of people are. That's absolutely fine, but it is by no means proof. It may indicate as to something, but again, we can't just take the word of a single person as absolute truth for anything, let alone let it be the entire basis for our crazy racism.
No children would buy children from poor people and cut their throats as if they were so many lambs or young birds.
And this is all hearsay anyway. There's no like documented proof with this. It's simply a philosopher who is recounting the habits of a civilization that he may not even like or support. It may even be based on racism in his fucking account. We don't even know. All we have is this guy's word to go on, and his supposed reputation, which is fine for some people, but I prefer a little bit more legitimacy than that.
Meanwhile, the mother stood by without a tear or moan, but if she wept or wailed, she had to forfeit the money, and her child was sacrificed nonetheless. Phoenicians, great.
Even just taking that at face value, people don't react to tragic things all the time. The mother may have actually... I'm surprised that I'm even entertaining this as being real, but if I was to just put myself in that mother's position, I would probably be like a deer in headlights too. I may not realize what's happening, I may not register it, and I may be totally desensitized at this point, but you can't just place evil on people like that's easy to do. Like, fucking morality is subjective to who's looking at it. If you are a Nazi, if you happen to be a Nazi, you may think that the Jews are evil. So if you were to see a person killing a Jew, then you may not think that that is an immoral thing. However, to most other people, that is an immoral thing. You see, morality is subjective. Fuck you, Christians. But do you get what I'm getting at here? Like, we don't fucking know that any of this was true, nor the intent of the supposed hypothetical people that were involved. Again, this is all supposed to be laying the groundwork for the point being that white people saved every other culture in the world, which is fucking batshit crazy, but here we are.
Traders and apparently connoisseurs.
Didn't mean to spoil the video for you guys. If you're waiting for a big twist or turn, it ain't coming. This is the basis for racism.
Of roasting their own offspring. A great civilization, they called it, pure evil. The Romans took one look at this Phoenician hobby.
I mean, we're a great civilization, and we kept people as slaves for hundreds of years. Like, Just because you are a civilization that does terrible things doesn't mean that you can't also be a great civilization in scope. You can have like the fucking bleeding edge of innovation and technology, and that might come from some really fucking evil people. What do you think Project Paperclip was all about? That was all about us folding Nazis, actual Nazis, into our science programs and allowing them to help build our rockets. Nazis helped us helped serve the foundation, or serve as the foundation of what we would later come to know as NASA. So we got to the moon with the help of people who are objectively evil, but we took their technology and we put it to good use. Instead of shooting rockets at people, which we still do, we decided to go to space. And we only just now did it again, but you know what? Baby steps, all right? The reform doesn't happen in one day. Come on, we can
of
do
roasting children and said, absolutely not. Someone get me a legion, and what a machine Rome was. They trained farmers and shopkeepers into human battering rams, then threw them at...
And now we're going and glorifying the conscription of the Roman armies. The Romans weren't white. Like, they had olive skin too. They were, you know, some of them were fairly tanned and dark. You're looking at you as this person, Calatin Chronicles, whatever the fuck, Calatanian, whatever the fuck he is. You're looking at ancient Romans and you're applying modern Mediterranean skin tones to them. They were probably much darker back then.
Hannibal.
More like Middle Eastern descendants in tone, skin tone, than white. Way more.
Who promptly smashed them to bits at the Trebia, at Lake Trasimene, at Cannae. Whole armies gone. Any other people would have said.
But because the Romans are Christians, Catholics, whatever, Christian, Catholic, it's the same shit. But because they are traditionally God believers in the biblical God, then they're the heroes now. They're the ones coming and cleansing this evil from the land. I just want to state on no uncertain terms that I personally believe that no genocide is good. Like, nobody is benefiting, and I mean, like, in totality. Even the people who are the victors. What I mean is really what I mean here. Nobody wins in this type of civilization dynamic. Nobody wins by conquering each other, meaning that the people who do the conquering, they miss out on all the innovation and the genius and the creativity and all of the life that could have been contributed to their society by the people they are now conquering and killing and enslaving. But also because the people who are being enslaved don't get to live actual lives. It's a bad thing for everybody involved, and it's overall bad for civilization. So conquering's bad. Being a conquering nation is bad. Colonialism is bad. Don't take over other countries. Don't get into the middle of their shit. Maybe.
Well, that's that then. Time to surrender. Not the Romans. They just shrugged, raised a few more legions and...
I mean, that was fucking Monty Python.
Well, that's that then. Time to surrender. Not the Romans.
Pretty sure this was a Monty Python, Life of Brian sketch. I think there's more variation in skin tone than we normally think of when it comes to the Romans. Their artwork frequently shows lighter skinned people. No, I know that. But overall, you're talking a lot more melanin than these guys probably assume. Or than these guys probably think. In the Roman times was about, you know, when shit started to spread out, right? Like, it was in, when we started to get, like, was that Landbridge times? No, that was way after Landbridge times. We were getting out into the other sections of the earth at that point. But Rome still had, I mean, they had people from Egypt. They had people from Africa. They had people from the Middle East. They had conquered nations all over the place and integrated their people into their cultures. So, I mean, there's a lot of darker skinned Romans. A lot of them. But yeah, that's Biggest Dickus.
They just shrugged.
Biggest Dickus. Do you find something funny about the way I say the name. Biggest. Dickus. That's that guy. I've noticed since Trump has taken over the USA, the amount of far-right content that has been growing since is just the amount of... Yeah, I get it. No. I mean, I agree with you, Flash. That's why, I mean, this channel, it's supposed to be about playing video games. But I also am a person, I believe, of conviction. And if I have the time to speak out against shit like this, then I feel like it's kind of my job. If I don't like have a what is it? Hey, Ixlis, Ixlis? I don't know if I'm Ixlas. I don't know if I'm saying that properly, but let me know. But yeah, I feel like we've been covering a lot of stuff that I wish wasn't happening lately. Yeah.
Raised a few more legions and marched straight back out again.
It is
Losing armies
astonishing.
to them was like...
But that's, I mean, that is sort of the wag the dog strategy. I mean, people knew this during Nixon times, but all the Nixon era people are dying. Like, they're dying off, and the younger generations are now taking over, and they don't know the shit that happened back then. So the espionage and the Watergate tapes and the scandals and the fucking resigning, like the process of a president resigning when they've done something wrong is feeling less and less like the backbone of our country and more things that are just negotiable. This is off topic, but I saw William Shatner on Saturday. Well, congratulations. He does a tour where they show Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and Shatner comes out after and talks about everything. That's awesome. He's old. He's an old man. An old man.
Like losing a pair of sandals. Annoying, but hard.
But I bet he's still got it.
And after a decade of Hannibal running circles
Got
around
what?
Italy like a Carthaginian fox in a Roman henhouse, they finally cornered him at Zama in 202 BC. Scipio took one look, said, right, let's stop faffing about, and sent the cavalry smashing into the Carthaginian flanks. Roman infantry ploughed through the center like it was a badly made garden fence. Hannibal, the so-called genius, bolted. In 146 BC, the Romans under Scipio Aemilianus stormed Carthage at the end of the Third Punic War. For 3 years, the legions had besieged the city, until at last they broke through the walls.
See, I think what this channel talks about in their bio is that they're telling history and they talk about science and stuff like that. I think what they're doing is that they're inundating you with so much history that you don't notice when they're trying to talk about ethnic cleansing, as if it's a good thing.
And fought street by street.
It's so
Ancient
that you'll
writers like
miss it,
Diodorus
you know?
and Plutarch record that in Carthage's darkest hours, the priests of Kronos still demanded the old Phoenician rites. Either way, Rome would have none of it. The Senate had already sent Cato thundering through the forum with his demand. Carthage must be destroyed. And so it was. 17 days, that's all it took.
And that's totally fine? You want to wipe a civilization off the map? I mean, I'm pretty sure most people modern day aren't happy that Trump said what he said about Iran. So I'd imagine most reasonable people probably are not in favor of wiping entire civilizations off the map.
17 days of steel and fire, and a city that had stood for centuries was reduced to ash. The Tophet of Kronos, the so-called Holy Furnace, gone. Snuffed out by men who thought civilization meant roads, aqueducts, and laws, not roasting children like a side dish. One can almost imagine a Roman...
Instead, they believed in abducting children and conscripting them at like 9 years old and then training them to the death to be like elite warriors. Ripping fathers away from their families when you're going to war because you need an army.
Roman centurion, brushing soot from his armor, addressing the Carthaginian priests in perfect dry politeness.
You see how he describes these guys as like the characters from 300, and he describes anyone else as like a third world nation. A civilization that existed for thousands of years, totally just a bunch of savages.
Yes, terribly sorry, chaps, but you can't barbecue your children anymore. Regulations. The Phoenician cult was gone.
Is there any proof to suggest that they were doing that en masse? Or that they were the only culture doing that? I would say either there is no proof that they were doing that, or very little proof that they were doing that as a culture, or there's plenty of proof that all the other cultures were doing it. Which is, I mean, both of those are pretty bad for this guy's case, but none of that is good. That's all bad.
The altars were eradicated.
But that means you portray everyone as the bad guys.
Evil silenced by Roman steel. That was the end of Moloch. At Carthage, it was not abstract forces or nameless armies, it was white men, the white Europeans of Rome, who destroyed the evil.
Right.
The Romans were not some foreign race, they were Europeans, the blood ancestors of today's Italians and kin to all the peoples of Europe. And
you see where we're getting a little muddy here? You see, I mean, I thought it was going to be a couched in a little bit more of some legitimacy, but he really did just come out and say it was all because of the white people.
In that war, it was Europe that stood victorious, Europe that put an end to Moloch, or did.
I mean, you're talking about the Mediterranean. You're talking about people who very famously came up through the Mediterranean. So there's still, again, a lot of North African, a lot of Middle Eastern, a lot of, I would say East Asian, I guess, or Western Asian, like, I mean, maybe, anything that crosses over into the Middle East, like maybe India to some extent. I don't know what India was like back then, but I know that Alexander the Great was like riding elephants. So I don't know which. I don't know enough about history to know that part, but again, I think that we as people look at history, we look at ancient times and assume that all the people back then had the same skin tones that we have now. That's why a lot of people think that Jesus was white. Granted, thankfully, that has been reduced a little bit in intensity. When I was a kid, like, everyone thought Jesus was just a white man. And so, thankfully, we've moved a little bit beyond that, and I've seen Jesus get darker and darker tones as we've moved along. But it's been a tough road, I think. Trumpstein lore makes Watergate look like a KFC pamphlet. Yeah, pamphlet. Jesus loves so much, you don't even know if Jesus was a real man, and if he was, you don't know that he could walk on water. So I don't know why you would assume that he loves anybody, but okay. Jesus loves so much, he died on the emoji for, he spelled our wrong, and, you missed a D there, rose from the dead. 3 days later, you have no verification of that, except for eyewitness testimony, which is famously unreliable. Saving us from hell, which is what kind of loving God would create people knowing that they're going to choose to stray from him and go to hell? That seems like a pretty sadistic kind of person. Sadistic kind of God, we come to him and repent. Well, you're forced to, otherwise you are tortured with hell for eternity. From your sins and believe he's the Son of God and make him Lord. You have, again, no proof of any of that. Is the door still open? I thought I closed it. I'll be right back. There's a goddamn moth in here. Thing's gonna dive bomb me. MLK was a white man. You have no proof of that. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate it, Swipebot. If you wish us well, then I appreciate that. I think that's what you're trying to say with all those words that you used. Hey guys, I hope you're having a good stream. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks, Swipebot. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. That was a very kind thing for you to suggest, even though I had to interpret it from you. That's okay. We're good at things like that here.
They. A cannibal cabaret, Spain cancels Taco Tuesday. When the Spaniards marched into New Spain, the land of the Aztec.
Just blatantly racism. Just blatant racism. The Spartans, what do they? The Spartans do something
Cannibal
with
cabaret,
Taco. Spain cancels Taco Tuesday. So the white men jumping in. I mean, this is conquistador lore. If you aren't familiar with conquistadors, they went in and they basically just razed entire civilizations to the ground, burned them down, destroyed all their history, destroyed their culture, and basically created Mexicans. And they went on, they had to, over the next several hundred years, try to reclaim bits of the history that they lost, their culture, the just all the shit that was taken from them, including their fucking bloodline, like their entire ancestry. Since we don't choose what we find convincing, punishing someone for something outside of their control is terrible. I mean, like, it should never just be, well, you don't worship the same God that I do, or you don't look like I do, so you deserve to die. It should just never be like that. Like, ever. It should just never, ever be like that. Well, I want gold, so you guys have to die. Well, I don't like how you look, so you have to die. Well, you worship a different God than I do, so you have to die. Like, that's just so fucked. Like, that is so incredibly fucked.
Cancels Taco Tuesday. When the Spaniards marched into New Spain, the land of the Aztecs, Bernal Diaz del Castillo noted it all with the casual horror of a man describing a new stew recipe.
He fucking said New Spain. Like, I get that you're like trying to claim it or whatever, but it's Mexico. And the fly just landed on me. I am almost quicker than a fly. I actually have been able to catch flies before. Although not with chopsticks. I'm still working on that one.
Every day we saw sacrifice before us, 3, 4, or 5 Indians whose hearts were offered to the idols and their blood plastered on the walls, and the feet, arms, and legs of the victims were cut off and eaten, just as in our country we eat beef brought from the butchers. I even believe that they sell it by retail.
Right, so it's not like back then they would need propaganda to propagandize savages, right? Maybe like we did as a fledgling nation. There's no reason why we would ever need to do that, right? Unless there was a certain, maybe not so tiny faction of our people back home who saw this as a bad thing and who maybe would have revolted against it if they had heard that we were the ones committing the atrocities, perhaps. Perhaps maybe the account of a single fucking person shouldn't be taken as absolute fact, nor should it be held in the history books as absolute fucking fact, especially if they're propagandizing. I mean, it just seems like maybe we should wait until these claims can be verified, because, as I understand it, the rumors of ritual sacrifice that the Aztecs were engaging in were wildly blown out of proportion, specifically because of accounts like this. And so Spain launched a, 50 years long campaign to systematically eradicate these savages with no pushback from the society back home. You want to know why? Because they were all made to believe that they were bloodthirsty savages. Weird how that works. Weird how demonizing an entire group that looks differently, that worships a different god from you, can be so effective at desensitizing people to the systematic eradication of that group of people. How weird. It's so strange. It's almost like, you know, propaganda was given a name for a reason. It's almost like stochastic terrorism is a term for a reason. So strange. So strange.
Tail in the Tianguez, as they call their markets. In the Aztec world, war captives and tributes from conquered tribes weren't just unlucky. They were basically takeaway orders for Huitzilopochtli.
No, that was... No. That was actually quite not so recently debunked. That there was way more signs of integration with the Aztec people, with the Mayan culture, and with the Olmecs. That there was almost no assumption that they executed prisoners of war, that they simply would integrate, not necessarily prisoners of war, but like refugees and people who come from, it's like one oppressive society to another oppressive society, like going in because they're being, told that they can't eat fresh produce, or they're going in because they're told that they can only have one kid. I'm making those up. Like, that's not like actual examples, but like it's one part of restrictive society makes them want to move to another society that has a restriction that maybe they didn't know about, whatever it is. And this is over like generations. So it's not like we're just picking up and moving. We're having entire generations who grow up disillusioned with the circumstances that they're raised in and want better lives for themselves. Their parents want better lives for them. That's been true since the beginning of time. So they move off to seek better pastures. They go off to seek better things. Spanish monarchy, ethnic cleanse, the Aztecs, and many of those methods were horrifying. Kind of reminds me of Belgian King Leopold. Yeah. Yes, on no uncertain terms. But also, like, we built entire civilizations on the idea of conquering and the idea of taking from other people. And I'm not saying, like, I know that that's a bad thing. Like, those are concepts that we today believe are absolutely abhorrent. And I think that it's okay to acknowledge that those things happened in the past without nostalgizing them or without completely whitewashing history. But also, we can understand that it was an important part of our development and still also decry it and still also say, no, slavery was wrong. We would never do slavery again because it was wrong. You can never own another person as property. And we can still acknowledge that the black people that were brought over here to be slaves, and I mean, as well as like Asian people from way back in the day, like Mexican people, like Native Americans, all thrown into slavery through like mining towns and predatory practices, lending, debts, things like that, as well as on the early 1900s talking about how like tips were introduced into America, allowing people to basically underpay black people, yada yada yada. They were able to contribute a lot to innovation, but only after they were allowed agency. You know, like, we have to have a very clear view of how things happened in the past, not to glorify them, and not necessarily to say, oh gosh, those things were really bad, but also to learn how we should proceed. Fuck, man, isn't this natural? Isn't this what people are supposed to be doing, like, just in their lives as they move through day, like, the day? Like, they should be thinking about how their memory, how their lived experience affects the things around them, and then apply that to new decisions they make. Fuck.
Tezcatlipoca, Tlaloc, and Xipe-Totec. Yes, the gods needed their regular protein fix to keep the sun up, the rain falling, and the empire thoroughly drenched in terror. The Mexica of Tenochtitlan made sure of it.
And around this time, there's totally nothing that the Catholics are doing that might be seen as fucking monstrous, right? Like this actual thing that he's talking about, the thing that he's trying to twist into being not an aberration, not a ethnic cleansing or anything like that. No, they came in and they rescued the Aztec people. This is the same shit that tankies do. This is the same shit that people have been talking about, like in support of Israel. Oh, they're demons. They're supporting Hezbollah, or what is it? Hamas. They're supporting Hamas just by living there. No, fuck you. Like, you don't get to go in and claim to be the authority on anything when you just have the bigger guns. That doesn't mean anything. That just means you have the bigger guns. And that's not good overall for society. What are you doing?
Prisoners hauled in from endless wars or demanded as tribute were marched up the steps, slit open, and offered to the idols. Then came the pièce de résistance.
Yeah, all of them. Every single one of them. Every single one. That's why, like, you know, there are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of sets of skeletons. Oh, wait. Oh, shit, they're not.
The flesh, elaborately dressed and paraded as the banquet's centerpiece. Cannibalism, but with table manners. Prescott dryly observed that it becomes even the more revolting. Bon appetit, gentlemen. The Maya took this to a new level. Diego de Landa watched as the executioner...
The Mayans. The Mayans are, I think, the Olmec. But aside from nobody talks about the Olmec. The Mayans were the more placid of the two. The Aztecs were like the warmongers, and the Mayans were more the agricultural and trade center of civilization in the South Americas. But okay, sure, I guess they were fucking savages, apparently.
Akon arrived with a stone knife, reached for the heart like a rabid tiger, tearing it out alive, and placed it on a dish for the priest. Sometimes they flayed the body whole, and the priest, naked, pulled the skin over himself. A fashion statement. Perhaps if one's idea of fashion is last season's jacket made from the neck.
Right, and yet we have, what, pictures of this, and yet no actual verifiable accounts. fuck, man. That's also what exactly what Trump has used to justify bombings in Middle East and Afghanistan. Yeah. This is the proto-us. This is the proto-US.
Neighbor. Shocking stuff. Nor did knives always enter into it. At Chichen Itza, victims were tossed alive into the sacred well, believing they would come out on the third day, although they never appeared again.
I'm pretty sure Chichen Itza was not used for sacrifice. But I could be wrong. Oh, okay. So yes, it was. Sorry. See, I can admit when I'm wrong. Mass child sacrifice. But again, it's like, yes, we can understand that evil things were happening back then. The Mayans did sacrifice. Oh no, I'm getting that. I'm getting that. I'm picking it up. But again, I feel like we shouldn't be throwing stones as the Spaniards in this particular case. Just like, I mean, again, this has been the basis for everything that this guy has said so far. There is just no reason why we can't just turn a mirror on him and say, well, okay, you guys are doing the same shit.
The Spaniards saw this and drew the line. Cortés didn't come out swinging from the first moment. He told them clearly, again and again, the sacrifices must end, the idols must fall. One day he warned them, and still the smoke rose from it.
I'm sure that he even probably Cortés probably even brought this, like, to them in that way. Like, I'm sure that they probably presented it as a very reasonable thing. Like, oh yeah, no, you guys are doing things that we don't support. But I also remember reading in Cortés's journal that when he saw the piles of gold in the king's chambers, he had to come up with a plan to get it. So it's not just like altruism that was driving people to do things. It certainly wasn't just altruism. And it certainly wasn't God. And again, like, as I've always said, if this is how God operates, cool. Just acknowledge that he's a piece of shit. Acknowledge that he wants you to ethnically cleanse. That's fine. Like, I don't personally support that. But you guys, if you're a Christian, you're going to find a lot of support from that side of the religious sector, you know? Just be up with it. Be up and open with it.
Temples. Another time he threatened, and still the hearts were torn out. They nodded, then carried on as before. Patience thinned. What made it intolerable to the Spaniards was the sheer parody of it all. They grew up believing sacrifice meant Christ on the cross, one man's suffering to redeem everyone, not this Aztec version, conveyor belt butchery to bribe the weather forecast. To the conquistadors, this was not religion, but diabolism, cruelty masquerading as piety.
Right. So, I mean, I don't think that he's understanding that he's saying my religion is better than yours here, but that's what it's all coming down to. I mean, just because Christians didn't... And who's to say they didn't do child sacrifice? I mean, what they do for children these days is certainly pretty fucking weird. I mean, it ain't the atheists. Or at least not most of them. They're not known for doing all the stuff that religious people have been doing to children lately. Sorry, I'm distracted. I'm building a bowl here. Give me a goddamn second. Hiya.
Their Christian faith taught them that all men were made in the image of God, not fodder for a priest's knife. So Diaz recalls Cortés roaring like a man who's had enough of amateur hour. How can we ever accomplish anything worth doing if for the honor of God we do not first abolish these sacrifices made to idols? The idols must come to the ground that very day. Lovely pep talk. The locals, of course, nodded politely, then went straight back to slicing hearts out like it was Taco Tuesday. Finally, Cortés lost his patience.
Yeah, more racism. Just, you know, I understand that it's easy to look at these things and be like, yeah, you know, the Spaniards really did the right thing. But again, these are just personal accounts. These are not, like, verified, I would say. And I would go so far as to argue, still propagandizing, but also I would go so far as to argue that perhaps they exaggerated a little bit. You know, perhaps they might not have been accurate 100%. Perhaps they might have just misunderstood some of these cultural practices and wanted to, I don't know, demonize an entire people. I don't know what the motivation was. I remember reading about the gold stores when they were discovered, and I remember reading about how Cortez was like super into them. So I don't, maybe there was some other, like, I don't know, maybe there's some other way to look at this, but I don't think that the way to look at it properly is to say that the white man came in and civilized the savages, because, I mean, we've kind of been pushing that, right, since, I don't know, since history books have been written. We kind of pushed that the white man was responsible for saving the savages, and then we pulled back from that, when the science came out, when the proof was that we actually just went in and did as much raping and murdering as any other conquering nation would have. I mean, I don't feel like it looks real good for us as a white race. In this particular instance. But I would like to get to the end of this video.
No more gentle sermons, time for the hammer. Either they must remove the idols at once, or we should throw them out and roll them down the steps. We were no longer their friends, but their mortal enemies. Translation: playtime's over, the statues are going flying, and yes, you're about to find out what more.
It's more like, listen, you guys are savages, you don't know what to do with all the gold you have. If you don't give me all your gold, I'm gonna kill you and everyone you ever loved or cared about. And and it didn't have anything to do with the rituals.
Mortal enemy actually means. Cortez made an example. He scolded them badly and ordered one Mexican Indian to be burnt as punishment for the death of the Indians they had eaten, so that he should appear to be doing justice.
They're not Indians. Mexican Indians? Don't you mean the Mayans? Or just whatever, like, South American refugees or slaves or whatever I'm not sure what you're trying to indicate. Mexican Indians? So the native South Americans? The indigenous South Americans? You can just say indigenous. Like, it's weird to say Mexican Indians. It just feels like very specific for no reason. The Mexican Indians... Whatever.
Harsh, but one
There's plenty
suspects the
worse
message
stuff
was
in here to
received.
react to.
At Cholula, the moment came with the crack of an arquebus, the signal to strike. The Spaniards fell on their foes, cutting them down with as much ease as the reaper mows down the ripe corn in harvest time, as Prescott put it. One imagines the Aztec allies staring at the harvest of corpses and thinking this was, at last, a season with better returns than maize. Looking back, Diaz summed it up with...
I mean, yeah, and we glorify things like that on the return. The victors are the ones who write history. I mean, like, it's easy, again, to say that this was a righteous battle, that it was a needed outcome, that these guys were horrific, savage individuals who had an endless thirst for human blood and flesh and killing kids. No, they just happened to be religious, and the religious practices that they engaged in were not ones that you do, and so you think that that's weird, because morality is subjective. How weird is that?
Soldierly pride. We, the true conquistadores, have freed them and led them into cleanly ways and taught them holy doctrine. The Franciscan friars and the Order of Señor Santo Domingo have extirpated it from the very roots. And that, like...
Yep, we brought Christianity to the savages.
Ladies and gentlemen, is how you shut down a civilization whose idea of fine dining...
Period. That's how you shut down a civilization.
...was sautéed neighbor with a side of maize. Spain didn't just...
No, what they considered to be fine dining was just food. The propaganda comes from how we, meaning this guy, how he says that they relished in the opportunity to engage in human sacrifice and cannibalism. Really, I think that maybe it was seen, because I remember reading like some more modern takes on it, and it was seen as a rite of passage, but I don't remember if it was really aggressively done to people who are like actively resisting. I think that you're kind of just led to believe, if you're a zealous religious type, that sacrifice is a noble thing, and that if you were chosen by the gods to be sacrificed, that is your destiny. And they just kind of accept it, and that's the way that they live. When generations go by and times become more modern, it's a little harder to see things that way because people become more educated about how the world works around them. They know that seasons happen and that rains come regardless of whether or not you sacrifice people. But letting them discover that would have been kind of cool. I don't think that they do it just like every day. They're just like happy to like completely sacrifice, like just be like, hey, let's just sacrifice someone. It's a Tuesday. Did we kill a baby yesterday? No? Okay, let's kill a baby then. It's Tuesday and I gotta eat.
Conquer Mexico.
I don't think it's like that.
They put an end to one of history's longest running horror shows. A standing ovation, please. The curtain.
Well, to be honest, if I'm looking at this objectively, then I have to look at what all the white people have been doing around the world at this time, and I would say that there's a bit of a problem. I mean, I think that it's fine to look at what you see as aberration, as you see as evil, and say, well, we're really cleansing the world of evil stuff. But if you go around also doing a bunch of evil shit, you're kind of the anti-hero in this, right? And if you try to rationalize it like, well, it needed to be done, we're not good people, but we did what needed to be done. They were like killing innocent people and they were enjoying it. And we went in and we stopped them from doing that. Instead, what it is we went around and we spread our religion. Yes, because a lot of people believe that it is the right way to live, but it also doesn't give you agency. It's also based on a lie. It's also a scam. So you're exchanging one scam for another. So it's unintuitive. And again, as I said before, this is all a prelude to straight up racism. That's all this guy wants to do, is just turn people racist. That's all he's trying to do with this channel.
And finally drops on the Cannibal Cabaret. Chalk up one morality point for the white chaps. Civilization saved, satanic menu cancelled. You're welcome. The Great Turkish Tent Sale. Everything must go. In 1683, the armies of the Ottoman Empire marched deep into Central Europe under the command of Kara Mustafa Pasha, because clearly 2 centuries of nicking the Balkans, Hungary, and half of Austria still wasn't quite enough. Their methods?
Right, so when white people go in and conquer nations, it's totally okay. But when any of this happens, when someone's going into a neighboring country and having a war with the person that they've probably fought with for centuries, that's not good, because they're all savages and they're all godless and they all need to be cleansed. But when the white guys come in and they get in between everything and they then go and conquer themselves, that's okay. That's totally fine, because we're rescuing people. You see, it's very Russia. It's very Israel. It's very, it's feeling very US.
Oh, charming. As Andrew Wheatcroft records, the first living prisoners and sacks of severed heads from Heinberg were brought in triumph to the Grand Vizier and laid out before him. After the town was...
Yep, people did terrible things in the past. Does that justify conquering them so they can do more or other terrible things? Nah, probably not.
Sacked. All the leading citizens who had resisted the summons to surrender came under the blade. The remainder of the population were enslaved. On the following day...
Oh gosh, yeah. Going into slavery is so much better than just living your life. Hey, apparently. Maybe, I don't know, because I haven't tried it yet. I have not tried being an indentured slave yet. So.
Kara Mustafa received...
Not even indentured. I've not dreamt of being a POW slave before, so maybe. Maybe I just don't know how good it is.
A fresh offering of 200 severed heads from Heinberg, plus 10 prisoners. Lovely. Just what every man wants delivered to his tent, a few sacks of heads. Elsewhere, some 800 of the townsfolk were captured in this attack, and most of them were either beheaded or enslaved at the whim of their captors. A nice reminder that under Ottoman hospitality...
That sounds kind of like God, right? Either I cut your head off or you're my slave. You've only got those choices. I will not accept any other decision. Please make your decision.
Your choices were basically slavery or sudden head detachment. The brutality was systematic. Terrorize, butcher, enslave, repeat. And as Vienna braced for siege, Kara Mustafa even ordered the execution of 30,000 Christian hostages. This was not simply another border raid. It was the knife-edge moment when Europe itself, from the Danube to the Rhine, hung in the balance. On the 12th of September, 1683, the fate of Europe was decided on the hills above Vienna. Against an enemy that had brought fire, slaughter, and chains, The defenders
And who were brown?
stood their ground. Starhemberg and his garrison had already endured more shells than a French oyster market, yet still refused to hand over the keys.
And then when he tries to riff, he's just bad at it. Had endured more shells than a oyster market.
Ottoman miners blew breaches in the
Please like me.
walls. The officers and sergeants quickly rallied their men. 3 files of men standing shoulder to shoulder, who fired down, then turned off to each side to reload, and then enter the firing line again. Several Turks were impaled on the spear points as they tried to scramble over them. Inside the bastions,
Was that from Total War? What is he doing? What is he taking images from? I believe this is one of some of the cover art from Total War. And then I'm pretty sure that the other one was like a Renaissance painting, but I'm sure this I think this is cover art for the game Total War.
several Turks were impaled on the spear points as they tried to scramble over them. Inside the bastions, blood and brains were spattered across the defenders as cannonballs tore men apart, yet still they held. Then came the hammer blow. Sobieski himself led the charge. 18,000 horsemen charged down the hills, the largest cavalry charge in history. Jan III Sobieski led the charge.
There's a actress known as Lili Sobieski, who's in a lot of cool films, one of which was an independent film. It was a French film. Was that Glass House? No. I think it might have been called French Cinema. Anyway, it was a good movie.
At the head of 3,000 Polish heavy lancers, the famed winged hussars, the charge easily broke the lines of the Ottomans. 18,000 thundering Poles against a camp full of Ottomans, suddenly realizing they'd forgotten to invent a plan B.
Okay, a little bit of diminishment of intelligence quotient just because again, Turks. Oh, nope.
The result? Pure comedy. The vast encampment that had terrorized Christendom for
Right
months
result.
dissolved faster than French courage in 1940. Sobieski's own words rang with triumph. Veni, vidi, Deus visit. I came, I saw.
What's wrong with the poll? Which is worse, man? Come on. Main event, which one's worse? Which one?
God conquered. Meanwhile, the
I know
enemy
it's a
fled,
toss-up.
abandoning their camp like students after a fire alarm, except in this case, they butchered their prisoners on the way out, just to prove what bad sports they were. Vienna was saved, and with it, Europe. The greatest Islamic power of the age had been broken on the walls of a Christian city, turned back at last by courage, steel, and the wings of Poland's horsemen. If the city of Vienna had fallen in 1683, the heart of Europe would have been split open. The Ottoman armies came to annihilate a Christian capital.
You like D-stash? You like dick stash? Is that like when you rub a penis on your mustache? I don't think I've ever tried that before. You like D-stash? Oh, you mean you like the little mustache? You can have a small mustache without engaging in Nazism. Pretty sure.
And then march onward. The walls of Vienna were the last shield
Yeah, I know it's a hard one. The overlap is just insane.
before the German states, and beyond them lay the trade, cities, and kingdoms of the West. The Polish and their allies did not just rescue a city, they preserved a civilization. As the chroniclers later said, never was there a victory more complete. The great destruction of the Turks before Vienna was rapturously hailed throughout Christendom as the
Are we talking about Constantinople? Is that what he's talking about? Because that was just a...
announcement of the approaching downfall of the Mahometan Empire in Europe. From that day forward, the battle
No.
marked the historic end of the
think it was.
expansion of the Ottoman Empire into Europe.
Or-
Too often,
no.
in the comments on my channel, Poles and Eastern Europeans are dismissed or mocked, as if they were outsiders to Europe's story. That could not be more wrong. Without them, there may have been no Europe at all. Vienna proved that when evil wanted to destroy Europe, it was our
Evil meaning people with darker skin than white.
Eastern brothers who saved us. White people versus evil. And
Yeah.
this time, white people
There you
won. Thank you, my Polish brothers. Lenin's little murder club. Communism. Ah, yes. The grand idea that if you just murder enough people, utopia will arrive on schedule.
Nope. that's what dictatorships are. That's what modern day people have twisted communism into meaning, but no, that's not what communism meant. A communist society is really just everyone pitching in and helping out. That's all it is. And it's the state making you do that. It is the government says you guys all need to cooperate. And they then control everything. I mean, it's like, does he know Europe existed before this, right? Nah. They let too many black people in. So therefore it was not a cohesive Europe. It's only Europe if it's white. All right? You're only allowed to call it Europe if it's only white. No black people allowed. Sorry. Also no Middle Easterners and no one from ancient Mediterranean days. So, no one with a Pantone shade darker than my white socks, than my pure lily white eggshell socks. No one's allowed.
Lenin, the patron saint of terror, didn't bother with niceties. In principle, we have never renounced terror and cannot renounce it. That's not a slip of the tongue, that's the mission statement. Imagine if Coca-Cola advertised itself as now with extra arsenic. Paul Johnson was an English historian.
So you're acknowledging that there was arsenic in Coca-Cola because there were trace amounts of it, and saying that if they had said the quiet part out loud, that it would have made people upset. Which is, I don't know if that's the right way to equate that.
Advertising
saying that we don't renounce terror, we cannot renounce, or we don't denounce terror, whatever it is, meaning that we would be willing to use terror if we had to. I don't know if I can find meaning in that, if you actually meant for there to be meaning in that. I'm gonna say probably not. Growing up, like, what do they expect me to do with the Chinese? I was like 6 years old and found out their history goes back 10,000 years or some shit. I mean, yeah. The oldest civilization that we have like physical like proof from is like tens of thousands of years old. Kind of disproves young Earth creationism for damn sure.
Itself as now with extra arsenic. Paul Johnson was an English historian, journalist, and public intellectual.
It's a false equivalency. It doesn't match up.
He explained. Lenin thought violence was an essential element in the revolution.
Yeah, because he was a dictator.
Essential, like oxygen, or like a knife to the throat. Meanwhile, communism was never for
yeah, because he was a fascist. He was a fascist dictator.
People who abominated murder. It was for people who abominated everything else. So what did this dazzling workers' paradise actually produce? A death toll that makes the Black Death look like about...
I mean, he's showing actual propaganda on his screen. He's showing actual propaganda. And then, what, are we just to assume that you're not propaganda?
Of hay fever. The Black Book of Communism tallies 6 million dead in the famine of 1932 to 1933, 720...
That's true. You know, we don't have laws for... domestic terrorism.
20,000 shot in the Great Purge, 7 million dumped into the Gulag, nearly 3...
I mean, like here in the US, we don't have laws for domestic terrorism? I mean, I know that there is just sedition and a... you can classify a group as a domestic terrorist. I would think, there's got to be a charge for domestic terrorism.
3 million still there at Stalin's death. All that, and they called it progress. Progress towards what? A world without Russians.
I love that he's playing the Soviet national anthem while he's talking shit about Russia. It's a little bit of a juxtaposition. I mean, I'm sure that he prefers modern day Russia. I'm sure he loves Putin.
Tsarist Russia managed just 6,321 political executions over a century. The Bolsheviks did 15,000 in 2 months. Bravo. A new record. Lenin wanted civil war, and he got it. So much for the fable of good Lenin, bad Stalin. There never was a good Lenin. There was just Lenin, and then the people he taught to murder more efficiently. Ukraine, of course, was starved on purpose. Genocide. Oh, darling, we're doing Picasso tonight instead. We build Holocaust memorials, but Holodomor, barely a post-it note. And yet people fought back. Ukrainians
yeah, because you can't be abhorred at both the atrocities against the Jews and atrocities against Ukraine. Sure, you can only choose one to be upset about. via the Patriot Act as dangerous unlawful acts intended to intimidate civilians or influence government policies. So we do have laws. I mean, I know that it says there is no specific federal criminal charge for domestic terrorism, but the Patriot Act defines domestic terrorism, or at least the crimes associated with that, as dangerous unlawful acts intended to be to intimidate civilians or influence government policy. And I mean, I wouldn't say that we've endured a lot of that, at least not enough to make comprehensive laws governing it. I think it was like Timothy McVeigh and I'm tapping my teeth here. Timothy McVeigh and who else? There's somebody else. Somebody was trying to do governmental change. The guy with the shotgun basement. The guy with the basement who he rigged up shotguns and shit. But he wasn't, I don't think he was hurting anyone. Killdozer, maybe? I don't know. Would 9/11 have been classified as domestic terrorism? Right? No offense, I don't know why you would think that it's good to praise MAGA. I mean, most people are kind of like off the Trump train, I think. Not most people, but like most reasonable people. Especially if, you get into the Nazi adjacent territory, it's kind of hard to support the guy, I don't know. I guess we'll see. So, I mean, and you even have, like, agencies that are dedicated to rooting out domestic terrorism, but that's kind of a fucking scary thing. Isn't it? Knowing who's in charge of those departments right now? Liberal blood. So are you calling for violence? Because that's not only against YouTube TOS, but that actually could get you arrested. So, if you're calling for violence, then I will absolutely report you. I hope you're using a VPN. Does it make you feel good to use the R slur? I bet it does. I bet that makes you feel so much better about your pathetic life. Wah, people don't like me. My family doesn't talk to me anymore. Wah. I'm too weak to actually go beat somebody up, so I go onto random live streams and try to talk shit. Wah. Yeah, he scared me with that civilization will die bit. Dude, like, he straight up said, a civilization will end. How is the nation stained red from the, Nazis, Holocaust? What? Are you trying to be anti-Semitic or racist? I mean, you haven't denied the fact that you're calling for violence against a specific group of people, so I'll just be including all this in my report. It's KKK members who vote on policies, man. What do you think they're voting for? Well, duh. What? I mean, the reason why you would pardon Gen 6 people is A, so they can serve in your private military force, and so that B, you can have them vote. Why else would you do that? Because convicted felons, they can't vote. So you'd want to pardon all those people that you know are going to be pocket supporters. That's a couple thousand votes right there. I mean, come on. You can't pass that up. And they won't classify KKK as domestic terrorists. And yeah, isn't that weird? They've done that with the Proud Boys and with Antifa, which is hilarious. Find me the leader of Antifa. I would love to see anyone who claims to be the leader of Antifa. That would be fucking hilarious. Because everyone else would be like, no. Like, what?
They're realizing, hey, feminism is...
Oh, I accidentally took the other tab out. Reopen. There we go. We were almost to the end.
Purge, 7 million dumped into the Gulag, nearly 3 million still there at Stalin's death. All that, and they called it progress. Progress towards what? A world without Russians.
Well, I would assume that when they deposed Lenin, that they would have said that it's progress because the nation's moving forward. Like I don't think that that's a big thing to attach to commies. Well, commies, again, if you actually paid attention in school, the communists weren't actually communists. The communists were led by a fascist dictator on both accounts, for both Lenin and Stalin. So communism, the way that they did it, is not actual communism. I'm sure you'll be confused to learn that, just as I'm assuming that you're probably confused to a lot of information that comes your way. And I'm terrified of the KKK, but they won't classify them. Yeah?
Tsarist Russia managed just 6,321 political executions over a century. The Bolsheviks did 15,000 in 2 months. Bravo. A new record. Lenin wanted civil war, and he got it. So much for the fable of good Lenin, bad Stalin. There never was a good Lenin.
I love how this guy is saying that entire groups of people are somehow demonic, while saying also that all white people are good. Completely ignoring the fact that white people are the most culpable for crimes, especially crimes of passion, especially crimes against children, especially violent crimes.
There was just Lenin, and then the people he
Ha 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 ha, this guy. If you were intending to make a point, I didn't see it.
taught to murder more efficiently. Ukraine, of course, was starved
I would love to meet you. No, you wouldn't. I'm sure you wouldn't.
on purpose.
You've called for violence. You've said that you've shown that you have a complete misunderstanding of anything that would be included in a basic education. The Civil War, yeah. You. I hope that you appreciate that A, your account's probably going to get nuked, but B, like, if you're calling for violence, you can be found and arrested. Like, you just said, I would love to meet you, and then the Civil War is going to be fun. Like, do you not see that that might be constituted as a threat? And if YouTube has access to your username, then what information did you put in when you signed up with that username? If you have anything involved with, like, cash, meaning, like, if you do any super chats or donate to anybody, your address is on file. And also, just so you're aware, it's not the side that brags that they have more guns that has more guns. So, you know, just saying. I'm sure you would not love to meet me, because you would probably say a lot, and then you'd say very little for quite a while.
Genocide. Oh, darling, we're doing Picasso tonight instead. We build Holocaust memorials, but Holodomor, barely a post-it note. And yet people fought back. Ukrainians refused to stop being Christians.
If it is your first time on stream, welcome, hello, hi. I'm going to turn the face cam off for just a moment, and if you're a regular viewer of my stream, you know exactly why. I medicate myself with the Kenny Boss, and I turn off the face cam just so as to stay within YouTube TOS. If you would like, please feel free to sync up if you also engage in the Kenny Boss yourself. If not, stay tuned. I only turn the face cam off, but I am still here. I'm still hanging out. Give me a moment, and I will be right back. Just wait, it's close. Okay. You sound so tough on the internet. You sound so tough. You're so strong and so tough, and your dick is so huge. I'm sorry you don't get that affirmation in real life. Alright. I will let it play, though, while I am smokething of the Kanibas.
Even as Stalin's boys tried to club it out of them, churches boarded up, priests shot, others
yep,
shoved
you are
onto trains
losing,
east, and still people pray.
You're certainly demonstrating that very thoroughly. So yes, thank you for admitting that. I appreciate it. What a glorious thing to be the last thing you'll ever say on this channel. I love that. That's such a good thing for you. That is such a good therapeutic thing for you to breathe out. That is just like so cleansing. You know, I hope that you carry that with you, and I hope that you continue to be in support of, you know, people that you may not ideologically agree with. You know, I think that's so good. That's so healthy for you. All right, 3, 2, 1. We're gonna let this play, but 3, 2, 1.
In barns, in cellars, anywhere they could
Smoke 'em
whisper
if
the
you got.
Lord's Prayer without
Thank
an
you, bye-bye.
NKVD eavesdropper.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
But yes, comrades, history will thank you for modernization. And in the West, oh, we had Jean-Paul Sartre, the intellectual's intellectual, declaring it was not our duty to write about the Soviet camps. Of course not. His duty was to chain smoke and seduce philosophy.
Well, no, it's not our duty to go in and tell other countries what they get to do. But I get how that could be confusing.
Students. Meanwhile, Albert Camus, a man with an actual spine, said simply, "The truth is the truth, and denying it mocks the causes both of humanity and morality." In which is exactly why Sartre got the Café Girls and Camus got ignored. Then there was Solzhenitsyn.
Oh yeah, because he was a nice guy. That's what we that's what we always say whenever somebody walks off with our intended love interest. Oh, they don't like me because I'm smart. They don't like me because I'm an alpha male. Said
who
no
didn't
alpha
so
male
much
ever.
write a book as drop a literary sledgehammer on communism's skull. The Gulag Archipelago removed the mask off the regime and paraded its rotten teeth for all to see. And of course the applause. Endless, thunderous applause at party congresses because NKVD men stood in the aisles waiting to see who dared stop clapping first. Imagine that, a society where sitting down could kill you. Solzhenitsyn smuggled it all out, page by page, and when the West finally read it, no one could claim ignorance ever again. And through it all, Western nations actually held the line. Berlin, 1948. America and Britain kept an entire city alive for nearly a year, with nothing but planes and willpower. And when Reagan said,
Mr.
Damn, dude.
Gorbachev,
Oh, I was like,
tear down this wall.
it wasn't just rhetorical theatre, it was the punctuation mark at the end of 70 years of carnage. Communism didn't collapse because it ran out of corpses. It collapsed because it ran out of food, money, and believers. The economies were wrecked, the shelves were empty, people were sick of queuing 5 hours for a loaf of bread, while their leaders...
yeah, because that's a dictatorship. That's not actual communism. Jesus.
drove imported cars. And the only reason it didn't stagger on longer was because the West kept up the pressure. Berlin airlifts, NATO armies, Reagan's missiles, dissidents smuggling out the truth. That's why it fell. Not because it stopped killing, but because it stopped working. White men, white nations, standing between civilization and the abyss. It was evil from the start, baked in like arsenic in the cake mix, and it took the courage, sacrifice, and blood of our people to hold it back and finally bring the whole rotten thing crashing down.
Yeah, so, hopelessly racist. Definitely one of the growing population of people in the UK who are very against any type of immigration. Mostly because of just, you know, good old family style racism. Sorry, I forgot I wanted to look at another video of this guy's. We're gonna take a look at Joshua Hames, though. I've looked at him before. And he is quite the character. But he's one of those pipe puffin radical right, I guess, because they say radical left all the time. So why not just coin a phrase, or why not just reclaim a phrase? You know, he's one of those radical right MAGA types, claims to be a pastor. And we're gonna learn about how MLK was not a good man, and about how the Civil Rights Act was one of the worst decisions in U.S. history. So we're gonna learn about those things. But we are gonna take a look at this guy, another one of this guy's videos here pretty soon.
Civil rights was a net negative. The Civil Rights Act became a battering ram that the left has used for decades at this point to
Nope. Nope. I don't want to react to the coming up, but nope.
The right into submission, implementing feminism in every single area of life, the LGTV ideology, you gotta bake the cake. Otherwise, we'll come after you with what? Civil rights.
Nope. They were not forced to bake the cake. So there you go. Case closed.
I no longer call it the civil rights movement. I call it now the civil rights industry.
You will get along at gunpoint.
Fuck you.
Is essentially kind of what happened with the civil rights. And that's actually not good. That doesn't foster unity, it turns out.
If you want to go start your blacks only town or your whites only
God!
town, you should
Just get to the episode. I have so much to say.
be either I
My main question is why are you... He told me to proclaim the good news in the darkness. We must make America Christian again. Civil rights was a net negative. The civil rights, other
No.
like that town or not.
question is just get on worst of the worst, dregs of humanity. But everything that you said is true and verifiable, and that's why I love your docuseries, is because you trace it out. You demonstrate. You're not just making claims like,
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have a good one, man.
there are these Marxist and socialist Soviet ties and all this talk about the tug of war between the Soviets and the American government. You're not just making the claim, like you.
So this guy is like a legitimate Nazi, like legitimately a Nazi, not just like hiding shit in like dog whistles or anything like that. He like legitimately is a Nazi. So if you're one of those people on the right who would look at content like mine and be like, what the fuck do you think is happening? You think there are Nazis? Like, oh no, there's no Nazis in America. This is one of them. So if you're one of those people who are like, Nazi, I'm not a Nazi, there's no Nazis, I just happen to hate the Jews, then feel free to look at this guy and understand that that's what I mean when I say that these people are Nazis. This is the great example of a modern day Nazi who speaks not necessarily with overt words, but fucking means it. How much they pay this guy? Probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars per year to just say all the shit he says.
Back it all up in the
More than
docuseries.
likely.
So guys, I highly recommend going to check out the docuseries because it's a wild ride. But yeah, even on that note,
I feel like
to
I
your
can't
point,
sit
everything that you just
correctly
said
in my
happened.
chair.
Like that's the Civil Rights Act became a battering ram that the left has used for decades at this point to batter the right into submission on everywhere from
It hasn't, first of all. Second of all, the Civil Rights Act was needed. I think a lot of people misunderstands why the Civil Rights Act happened. They look at society today and they apply today's values to back then, because there's a lot less racism than there was back then. And because they don't see it with their own eyes, to them, racism doesn't exist. And so the reports that they hear from people like this comport very well with what they understand to be true. That there is no racism in America. There is not a Nazi problem in America. There isn't any of the stuff that the radical left is talking about in my world. So there's very little possibility that it's true at all. So because they don't know better, they take this very rigid stance against anyone who would call a person like this a Nazi, because it's like, oh, you're just one of those blue hair cat lady bullshit, yada yada. You know what I'm saying? And no, that's the thing. Like, the people who are part of these generations or insulated by these generations, they don't know what was happening because they'll never admit to being implicit or to being complicit or to being parts of it or to being accessories to it. I know I just was very redundant there, but they would never admit to any of that stuff, even if they knew that it was happening. But there's a lot of people who back then just thought they were doing the right thing and who understood, because they compartmentalized their knowledge, because they're like traumatized or whatever. They would go on to be like, oh, well, that was just a thing that happened, completely glossing over it, which is, again, an understandable thing. You can look at things that happened back in the day and say those were evil, evil, evil things, and you can either say, sorry, I'm typing. You can either say, well, that was a thing that had to happen, or that was a thing that we'll never do again. I mean, that's ideally, you would be saying that that's an evil thing that we'll never do again. But, you know, I mean, if you say it was a thing that had to happen, that's fine too. You can try and justify it. Sorry, again, I was typing. I'm trying to do more engagement with social media. I don't know if it's working, but can't hurt. So I'm posting more on like Instagram and Threads and Twitter. Oh, I'm not logged in, so I just won't even worry about it. But yeah, so they just, people are not willing to believe that they could have been complicit in something as terrible as an ethnic cleansing or being associated with racist or Nazis or whatever. So they'll do everything that they can to try and avoid association with it, even getting down into the nitty-gritty of defining terms when that's really not like required at this point. It's really just whether or not you're racist, man. Like maybe some people might sound a little more racist than others,
implementing
but...
feminism in every single area of life. The LG.
Yes, you should be incorporating feminism in every single area of life. Feminism is just women being equal to men. That's just it's the same thing. Like with how people like can't fucking determine or can't define woke. Like feminism really is just women understand, like it's people understanding that women have historically been submissive and you know, in a exploitative position, often exploited by men, because men are the ones who determined how culture operates. Men are the ones who built the system. Men are the ones who defined all the terms. Men are the ones who wrote the laws. Men are the ones who created society. They are the ones who determined what all the rules were going to be. It just happened to be that they got there first. There have been plenty of people throughout history, plenty of cultures throughout history, where women have been dominant, have been more muscular, have been taller, have been more dominant in both the bedroom and social life. Like, there are plenty of cultures where things like that have historically been the case, but it was just men that happen to have that the mentality where they want to be in control of something in their immediate vicinity. And I'm not a woman, so I don't know if women have that desire too, but I feel like it's characteristically specific to men to want to climb in power, to want to just grab and gain power, and to just have power in their hands. And in my experience, women tend to appreciate or be more into minutia, be more into like the analytical side of things. And it could be a brain chemistry thing, like maybe, see, I don't know enough about, you know, biology to know this, but it would occur to me that there's probably like a brain chemistry thing, you know, where like men operate with more of their emotional centers and women operate with more of their their analytical centers, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But the point of feminism is only, and it only has ever been, to create an environment where women are equal to men, where there don't need to be differentiations between women and men. And fuck anyone who says, well, women are weaker. Well, women want to be submissive. Well, women wear dresses. I mean, we fucking created all that. Men created all that. We are the ones who systemically tell our daughters that they need to be girly, that they need to do girly things. We are the men who systemically tell our men, our young boys, to not show emotion and to not cry and to be masculine and muscular and all this kind of shit. Like, we don't need to be doing that. We could say that everyone's equal, that everyone has a chance, everyone has an opportunity to do whatever the fuck they want to express themselves. But it's because we created these systems. And then we are constantly pushing back on any attempt to incorporate equality into things. So, don't fuck it at me.
TV.
Yes, feminism belongs in every fucking facet of society. Yes. Goddamn. It should just be equal. Like, we should all just start at a baseline of 0. And it's all a meritocracy from there. That would be real cool. I'd be into that.
Theology, you know, like it's now ubiquitous.
I'd be middle of the road. But I think I'd be okay with that. I think I'd be happy in my life. I'd have found my little slice of heaven.
And you've got to bake the cake. Otherwise, we'll come after you with what? Civil rights law.
Nope, because again, even citing civil rights law, this was a first. The company did not have to bake the cake for the gay couple.
All that was established at the civil rights. In fact, and one of the greatest, and you mentioned this already, one of the greatest lawsuits.
And Jesus fucking Christ, why don't you just say... No, not yet, act. Why don't you just go to the fucking thing and say what the fucking act is? That's all you have to... It's like, it is instantly a loss in legitimacy when I'm watching something if they don't just tell you what the thing is. Like, oh, the Civil Rights Act was a mistake. All it did was bully conservatives for 80 years or whatever. Like, that's all they said. They didn't say what it was. And now they're saying what it is in, like, really nebulous terms. Like, just terms that, like, don't fucking help anyone understand what it was. It's all, again, it's just propaganda. Right? But you get what I'm saying? Like, I wish that people could just stand on their morals. If they are Nazis, just be Nazis. Put the fucking armband on, put the goddamn hat on, goose step down Main Street. Do it. Just do it. Like, don't cry about how you can't be a Nazi. Don't cry about how you can't do blackface. Just do blackface. Yeah, people might beat you up, but that's the life you've chosen. And if you are proud of it, then you wouldn't feel shame when you get beaten up because of it, because you got beaten up for standing up for what you believed in. That would be a badge of honor, if anything. And if society were to oust you, then you don't want to be with them anyway. You know what I mean? I don't fucking want to be with... You don't want to be with black people if you're a Nazi. You don't want to be around Jewish people if you're a Nazi. You don't want to be around those people. So admit that you're a KKK member. Admit that you're a Nazi. Put on the robes, put on the fucking hood, and walk down the street and get beaten up for what you believe in. And then go home and move your house elsewhere. Because you're getting flamed online and shit. Because you're getting death threats. You know, like... Yes, that is the life you've chosen. And I believe that's why I'm a free speech absolutist. I think that people should be able to dig their own holes. Praise be. Get what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Like, fuck, man. I feel like we're doing... I think the left is not doing enough to ostracize the right. Like, they're doing plenty of laughing on SNL, but like, I go to my city council meetings and I talk about the same shit I talk about here. Like, I wish that more people on, and I'm not like, I wouldn't consider myself an influencer with the small audience that I have, but like, I would hope that other people who create content would be going to their city council. I know that like the guys that I watch do all that, but like, I mean, I fucking hate mentioning him, but that douchebag Hassan, like, he goes to places and he's like on the street, but he's there for views. He's not engaging like with his local fucking civil leaders. He has the power to do it. He is a rich kid, been a rich kid, stayed a rich kid, and is now just a rich kid who is in an older aging adult's body. I think he's almost 30, isn't he? He might be over 30 at this point. But like, he's doing it for his own interests, and it feels like the only way to retain that momentum, you have to keep having conflict, right? So if the conflict dies down, his channel dies. So the diaspora needs to still be head to head, or else he doesn't benefit. So I feel like that like removes legitimacy from him. I have nothing to gain or lose. So there's no reason for me to tell the truth, or no reason for me to lie. Like there's only incentive for me to tell the truth. So, or at least what I believe to be the truth. I know that's all like subjective still, but you get what I'm saying. Hassan is 31. Okay. Yeah. See, he's too old to be sucking at the teat of ignorance and using that as an excuse anymore. I don't agree, but I agree to everyone's right to say whatever the fuck they want, KKK included. Say what you want. You just can't have a vote on national policies that harm the poor. I guess. I think. I don't know. I think they should get votes, but like that's again why they should be open about being KKK and Nazis and stuff like that. They should be open about it, because then they wouldn't be trying to lie to people like this guy is. I'm not going to read this, but I brought it up just to know that you can easily find it on Google, and it doesn't have to be a fucking dog and pony show where all you're doing is sensationalizing what people think the Civil Rights Act is about. They're going to completely mischaracterize the entire thing throughout this entire video. And you stop watching him. When it came out, he abuses animals. I mean, he's always been a douchebag. Skippy, I can't imagine why you would find me entertaining if you found Hassan entertaining, because I hope we're not alike at all. He is like an entitled fucking child, and only a person like that would abuse animals. But like, fuck, I cannot stand to listen to people who have had everything handed to them in life and listen to them talk about like national, like foreign national or foreign politics and like just the global stage. Like, it's such a fucking, it's such an out of touch point of view often. I can't sit properly in my chair. Please, I need a new chair. I need like I at least need a new base on here, because the way this thing, it just doesn't allow me to turn. Ah! How the fuck can we let KKK make a decision on paying reparations? I mean, they can vote, but not shit like that. Inner city reform, prison reform, policing in the South. Yeah, but how are you going to restrict them? Everyone, I mean, if we're a democracy, we have to let them have a vote. And if the KKK turns out to be the more popular side of things, then I'm more than happy to leave the country. That's also why you shouldn't have any sense of patriotism to where you were born. Just like you don't have to have any sense of obligation to your family. If they're terrible, get the fuck out. If your country sucks, get the fuck out. If your house sucks, get the fuck out. If your relationship sucks, get the fuck out. You only have one go around. And you need to make it the best one. Even if you're a fucking Taoist, like, you have so little time on this planet. Like, there's just so little time to be spending. I've already ruined myself, so I can only offer advice from now. But like, there's so little time to be spent, like, you know, worrying about like where you're from and who you're born from. Like, take stances, absolutely. Be political and be effective in whatever you do, but you know, go be where you're happy. Be where you're happy with who you're happy with, and you're gonna have a much better life than these motherfuckers. Certainly, with all the money in the world and so little sense that they don't appreciate one moment of it. They're never happy. If my country treats me like this, the rest of the world fucking hates them and me. I mean, yeah, but that's why I'm saying, like, you don't have to have patriotism. Like, you don't. It's the same thing. Like, if I was talking to my wife about separating from her parents, like just never talking to her mom or dad again, she would never be able to fathom that. It would instantly be like, I'm never to be able to do that. Nah. But like me, my mom did horrible things to me when I was a kid, like mostly drunken physical violence, but also like just really like limiting. Like she didn't help me pursue any of the opportunities that I felt like I was like working for and earning, and she just wanted to keep me close because she was lonely. And so she basically helped me sabotage every single opportunity I had growing up for any kind of like decent education, and then basically kicked me out when I was like 16. So real what is that, tug of war in her brain. But I'm American, I'm just the gutter, they don't like to talk about us. No hate, no malice. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm below the poverty line. I think a lot of people are. That's what, like, the majority of people who make over $250,000 a year is the 1%. Like, the majority of them vote conservative because they have interest in that. But we just, older people vote, you know, richer people vote, more conservative people vote, religious people vote. It's rarely the liberal arts majors. It's rarely the people who are out on the corner protesting, because a lot of the times it's disillusionment, a lot of the times it's infighting, and a lot of the times they feel like it's just not going to do anything. And you have if you have enough people thinking that, all the people in your social circle, all the people in your immediate community, none of them are going to vote, the bad guys are going to win. So, I mean, that's why coalitions need to be formed. That's why activism is a thing. That's why it needs to spread into, like, communities that are being gerrymandered. You know, you got to convert them back to at least to neutrality, at least to being fence sitters. I feel like I would be okay with the back and forth politics constantly if we at least had a lot more fence sitters. If we at least had people that could be swayed either way. I know that like sounds a little bleak, but like we've come from being a nation of fence sitters to being just entrenched in whatever we don't want to share, whatever politics we don't want to share with other people, which is mostly a conservative thing. But like, they don't want to admit that they're racist. They don't want to admit that they're Nazis. They don't want to admit that they're, you know, whatever fucking bullshit that they don't want to admit to. And then they couch in this, oh God, sorry ASMR, sorry headphone users, that they then couch in this, like, we're trying to save the nation bullshit. Like, just split off and make your own fucking nation. I'm just gonna move back to California, and we can hope that the earthquake separates us and pushes us into the ocean or something. I don't know. Me and my sisters all left home before 16. I mean, no one should have to do that. I made it work for as long as possible, but I needed help, and the people that I counted on were not there when I needed them, and so it was a tough go, and I would not wish that on any person. Even people I don't agree with. So take that, Christians. And conservatives, I guess.
In that whole process of the Civil Rights Act was freedom of association. One of our foundational rights outlined in the Constitution is gone. It's essentially gone now. And there are devastating.
In what way? In what way?
Devastating heights. Act was freedom of association. One of our foundational rights outlined in the Constitution.
But free association with who? Who are you no longer allowed to associate with? Does that mean with racist views? Does that mean if you're a racist in this country, you're no longer allowed to be racist because of the Civil Rights Act? Gosh darn it! You damn civil rights advocates, how dare you remove my right to be racist? How dare you?
It's gone. It's essentially gone now. And there are devastating consequences to American society for that. And like you said, I thought that was really interesting, the part you were talking about.
Devastating consequences.
Being, like, actually, not just not a good idea, but potentially evil. And in fact,
what?
All the way back around to the beginning of the question when I asked you.
So here's why they do this. I already know the psychology to this. I've been commenting on these guys for over 10 years at this point.
Really interesting, the part you were talking about forced integration being.
It's the assumption that nobody's going to do the research. I don't remember what that what the term was, but it's when you know that nobody's going to double check it. When you say something that you know, is that weasel words? I don't remember what it is. Are you saying we don't have the right to associate with slaves anymore? Well, no, I'm saying that you don't have the right to associate with being a racist anymore. You don't have the right anymore because of the Civil Rights Act. Now you're not allowed to be a Nazi or a racist. I don't know if it's about slavery yet. I'm not quite sure at this point. It could be. But I don't think it really accounts for modern day slavery. I don't think that's like I don't think that's the Civil Rights Act of, whatever, like 60s or 64, whatever the fuck it was.
Like,
I don't know.
Not just not a good idea, but potentially evil. And in fact,
potentially evil. Forced integration. Meaning that the people who were so racist that they didn't want black people anywhere in their business or their community being forced to allow black people to live near them, that is somehow evil. Because it removes your freedom of association.
to tie it all the way back around to the beginning of the discussion when I asked you about the Tower of Babel, that ties in, I feel like, to that part of the discussion.
Right, and we're going to use our Christianity as a crutch to justify everything we're about to say. That's just plain evil.
Discussion perfectly, where like,
I just meant it as a joke. No, I was joking too. I know I have a dry sense of humor, but come on. I just mean it as a joke, showing how a Confederate could make a similar argument about their freedom of association. Well, yeah, and then use the Bible to justify it. There is still segregation in 2026 in America, wanna bet. Yeah, I mean, I'd say there's definitely places where black people aren't made welcome. But I don't know that I've seen a whites only school or community center or anything like that in the time that I've been alive. And I lived in the South for a good while. But there's definitely places where black people know not to go in all the places that I've lived. Just because you're more likely to get pulled over, you're more likely to get a hate crime on you, But yeah, I don't know. I mean, biker bars with 1%ers or 2% or whatever the fuck. Obviously, Google it. You want me to Google if there's modern day segregation? I'm pretty sure the AI is gonna say no, but there's concepts of segregation or something. Is there modern day segregatoing in the USA? I don't know why I kept that. I liked it because I thought it was funny. De facto segregation. See what I'm saying? Not official. That's again, black people knowing that there's places that they're not supposed to go. I would even go so far as to say there's probably still some sundown towns. But we're talking rural. We're talking way out in the middle of fucking nowhere. A person where a place where a self-respecting black man would never find himself. Because he knows there's probably a sundown town nearby. It's official where? Residential segregation. I mean, we're talking about redlining, right? School segregation. Private schools, I would assume, being the most likely culprits. With research, according to this Reddit post, suggesting that in some cases it's more severe than in the late 1960s. Nearly half of all Black and Latino students attend schools that are 90% or more of people of color. Well, yeah, that's because again, racism exists. Legality aside, that 80% increase in the actual demographics is significant.
what's going on at Babel is humanity is coalescing whenever God has
sent them out. Which demographics? You mean 80% since when? And is that just an increase in population? Or are you talking about demographics in a specific market?
To be fruitful, multiply, have dominion over the entirety of the earth, and instead they're coalescing and building an idol to themselves, right? And so what Babel does is it disperses them, and what we learn there is that
yeah, this is a story in the Bible. This is a potentially fictional story in a potentially fictional book, and you're applying it to U.S. law. but do go ahead.
God is actually interested in dispersing peoples, and it's not bad for them to be separate, actually. It's not a bad thing.
While you're puffing on tobacco, that is more than likely farmed with some pretty exploitative labor, which is just the cherry on the top, right? The AI response mentioned that there's an 80% increase in segregation from 1990 to 2017. Yeah, and what was happening that entire time? I mean, there's definitely a very easy direct cause. What happened, like, around 20, like, I want to say, like, 2008? The housing collapse. Although 1990, yeah, you're looking about in the time of what? Rodney King? When was Rodney King? '91, yeah. So you were looking at the LA riots. You were looking at the advent of, like, definitely higher racial tensions, especially, like, because you had the OJ trial, you had, like, the Michael Jackson scandal. Like, these were big celebrities that had big influence in a lot of communities, and people were dividing on racial lines pretty fucking quickly over that shit. And especially when they viewed, like, all the LA riots as, like, just looting. There was jokes in the Always Sunny show about that, which I found to be pretty funny. Funny, though topical. But then, even like, so the housing crisis obviously segregated people further, because you have people, white people moving into black communities and vice versa, because the value of properties was going all over the place and bottoming out. You know, people of different levels of poverty who were experiencing higher potential growth in the following years, leading to more people leaving the black community for other more affluent communities, and more people leaving more affluent communities for more poverty-stricken communities, which are usually the homes of minorities. Do you know what Count Ol Pro is? I do not. It's arguable that segregation is worse now than it was at the end of the civil rights movement. Though not legislated, yeah. By circumstance, like, de facto, yeah. I would say that in the last 10 years, we've been more, I guess 15 years, we've been more divided along racial lines than the preceding 30. Especially with the advent of the alt-right movement. This guy is a perfect example of what Cold War era propaganda Gandhi. Isn't that a band? What Cold War era propaganda can do for a movement. Unfortunately, it's the bad guys that it's benefiting right now. I wish it weren't.
You know, and it's good and fine when people's of their own accord, like you were saying, with regard to freedom of association, and how that there was kind of a natural.
Again, he means freedom to associate with racists. That's what he means.
Together, a natural getting along that was happening based on the merits of, you know, the parties involved.
Like, that's not a guess. That is actually what he means.
Without top-down federal pressure, and it's not even just incentive, but basically you will get along at gunpoint is essentially kind of what happened with the civil rights, and that's actually not good. That doesn't foster unity, it turns out.
No, it breeds resentment, it destabilizes society, demoralizes society, and it breeds it breeds distrust as well. So it's complete.
Oh, COINTELPRO. Yeah, you're talking about the was that Nick? No, anti-Vietnam War. Oh. Yeah, it's the propaganda department, the department of, what is it? Office of Propaganda, or something like that. I forget what that was called. It was in the Control universe? No. I mean, we actually had, like, a department of propaganda, but I'm trying to remember, like, what modern example. Like, there was a modern sci-fi sort of thing that it was in, that it made it sound really funny. Like the Office of Propaganda. I'm wishy-washy on my brain logic. From a left analysis, it's not a contradiction. Capitalism can abandon overt racial caste law while preserving stratification through markets and institutions. Mechanism changes the hierarchy adapts. Yeah, I mean, you're describing. I mean, I know your username is Leninware, but like you are describing like what would essentially be a communist society, but without the trappings of a dictatorship behind it, or a dictator, in any case.
Completely just detrimental to society. But people make the mistake of believing that it was an improvement because of a lot of the creature comforts that we have today. And so the fact is, it's all held together by.
What the fuck does that even mean? That it was an improvement because of all the creature comforts that we have today? Because of the civil rights movement? Or because of the Civil Rights Act, I mean? Let's take a look at what the Civil Rights Act did. I put do in caps because I'm really emphasizing it, okay? I am really emphasizing it. Legally ended segregation in public facilities, schools, and workplaces while outlawing discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. And just to reiterate, where did it go? Just to reiterate, this was their point.
Creature comfort treatment, and it breeds untrust. It breeds distrust as well. So
The Civil Rights
And that's
Act
actually not good. That doesn't foster
breeded
unity, it turns out.
untrust.
it breeds resentment. It destabilizes
Resentment.
society, demoralizes society.
Civil Rights Act destabilized society. Now let's just maybe I've lost my memory in the last 3 seconds, but hang on. Let me just take a look again at what the Civil Rights Act accomplished, okay? Legally ended segregation. So how does that undermine us as a country? How does that divide us?
And it breeds untrust. It breeds distrust as well.
How does it breed distrust? When you can no longer segregate your school on the basis of race, how does that sow distrust? We're advocating for whites-only spaces here. I don't know if that's made very clear. But also discrimination. What is the freedom to associate that we're losing out on when you're saying you're no longer allowed to segregate community places and in public places? You're no longer allowed to segregate those things or discriminate based on race. What could you possibly associate with? Gorsh! My gorsh! Oh, well, gee golly willikers! What could you possibly wish to associate with? If you're saying that the Civil Rights Act was evil, and that you no longer have the freedom to associate, who could you want to associate with? You want to tell me? Please? Segregation ended in 68. Civil rights were in 64, wasn't it? Looks like 64. I mean, you have multiple years that you have to use to implement a series of laws. It doesn't just happen right away. Some do, but, you know, I don't know. If that's the case, I don't know if what you're saying is correct, but I'm just going by what it says here. I don't know dates. I don't know the dates.
So it's completely just detrimental to society. But people make the mistake of believing that
So,
it's an improvement.
making a real push to end racism, I guess, making an attempt to try and minimize the impacts of racism, somehow, this is being said by a black man, somehow is detrimental to society. Okay, overall detriment. All right.
Because of a lot of the creature comforts that we have today. And so the fact is, it's all held together by myths and strings that, again, are unsustainable. So, and I think we've seen a lot
You're not going to give any examples, I'm guessing.
I think we've seen a lot of results of that unsustainability of what the civil rights movement has brought about. I no longer call it the civil rights movement. I call it now the civil rights industry because it's become an industry.
I'm hoping that there's an example coming.
That's exactly right. That's good. Just I guess more getting down into the first principles of the matter. What do you believe? So, what is the way forward? I guess I'm wondering.
Oh, no examples, no examination of the principles that you're laying out here. Just talking shit. I get it. I get just two dudes talking shit. I get it.
Because you talk about forced immigration being, being a net negative, being, not the way. That's what we've experienced. What are your thoughts on, because you go to great pains throughout the docuseries to kind of show before the Civil Rights Act, like the trajectory that Black Americans were on with regard to building their own communities, institutions, businesses, and all that stuff.
You're getting... Go on.
What is the way forward? Like, a lot of people are wondering that, like, the black-white issue has been the quintessential...
You introduce... and pause for dramatic effect here. Segregation. That's... I'm hoping not, but I'm guessing that's what the solution is going to be.
Political issue in America for centuries at this point. Like, how do we live together? God in his sovereignty has brought white people and black people, Anglos and Africans, into one place. Wasn't the most ideal setting at the beginning, right? But I would say that pretty much every Black American is very, very thankful that happened because they now get to.
Hang on. Let me rewind it a sec. I don't know if you caught that.
Anglos and Africans.
I'll even put the captions on just so you can read. But holy fuck!
Political issue in America for centuries at this point. How do we live together? God in his sovereignty has brought white people and black people, Anglos and Africans, into one place. Wasn't the most ideal setting at the beginning, right?
No,
but I would say that pretty much every Black American is very, very thankful that happened because they now get to reside in one of the greatest country in the world, in my view.
So the Nazi is telling the black man, and this sounds like a joke. It sounds like I'm setting up a joke. A Nazi and a black man are on a podcast, and the Nazi says, I'm sure most black people in America are thankful for slavery. My gastids are flabbered. They are thoroughly flabbered. I don't know. Look at his face. Whatever piece of his soul was left just died.
Every Black American is very, very.
Oh my God.
Has brought white people and black people, Anglos and Africans, into one place. Wasn't the most ideal setting at the beginning, right? But I would say that pretty much every Black American is very, very thankful that happened because they now get to reside in one of the greatest country in the world, in my view.
Do you see his face? This poor man. I'll play it at 1x speed. We need to take in the full breadth of what he's... Look at him. Look at his compromised face. His faith has been compromised. He has been compromised. Look at that. Oh, fuck, man. See, this is why villainy is such a cool storytelling thing. I hate to go off on a tangent here, but this is why, villainy is so cool, because you can layer it. You can layer so many different things into a villain that, make you almost sympathize with him. Nolan in Invincible is a great example. He did atrocious things in the first season. And then you're sympathizing with him, knowing how, all his fucking parents and whole family died, even though they were terrible people. Yeah. This is the real world example of this. Fuck, man.
But
I want to feel bad, but he's doing terrible things, but I want to feel so bad for this guy. He's just sold his entire soul to a guy who's not to this guy, but to a machine that puts him in front of people who say that he should be thankful that his ancestors were aggressively kidnapped and brought over to be kept as property by his ancestors.
I would say that pretty much every Black American is very, very thankful that that happened because they now get to reside in one of the greatest, the greatest country in the world, in my view. In fact, that's I heard we were having a
dude, and look at him having to fucking take that. I have never had the desire to call somebody a bitch, but that's what he's doing right now. He is being a bitch. And I'm an equal opportunity of that word user. When I do use that word, it is in equality to both sides of the gender spectrum. But fuck, man. That gave me a pit in my stomach. Oh.
A discussion with someone about reparations. And that just
not only not only is he talking about the whole video is about how the Civil Rights Act was a mistake, and then B, not only is he saying that the Civil Rights Act was a mistake and that forced integration was bad, but now he's also saying that he should be thankful for slavery, and then he's saying that nobody deserves reparations. Like, what the fuck, man? Why are you doing this to yourself?
It kind of baffles me, that the whole reparations discussion, because
like he's clearly doesn't want to be there.
What you've got there is like, hey, we need money because this thing happened to my great grandparents or whatever.
To a whole culture of people, to its own civilization, to a burgeoning civilization. Fuck. COINTELPRO. Oh yeah. I don't doubt that.
And
but you also, I mean, look who's in power right now. But you also have to understand that a lot of the propaganda campaigns that the government itself has launched have been very ineffective. It's usually other countries that end up influencing us, but not even that much. Like it's you're talking about like wine moms and Facebook groups and shit. Like they're not dominating the TikToks. They're not dominating the Instagram shorts or Instagram Reels or the YouTube shorts. Like they're not dominating those things. They're in insular channels of people who already subscribe to this information, which is what they figured out when they did all the data behind like the propaganda campaigns through like Discord and just shit like that. But it's largely only effective on the people who already believe this kind of stuff. This is why I would be able to debunk this guy effortlessly.
We need repayment, and my response is like,
stuff like this that's like really specifically targeted kind of debunks itself. You lose legitimacy pretty quickly when you are super adherent to like one small group of ideologies. Like if you're a Nazi and you're a Christian, then you have a very narrow worldview. So you're only talking about stuff that is easily seen as illegitimate.
We paid with 700,000 lives, actually, at the Civil War. Like,
oh my god, dude. We paid for your generations of suffering with the lives of mostly you guys and some of us for our systematic enslavement of your people. Okay. I mean, that was people who were trying to vehemently keep the slaves and other people who were just trying to shore us up with ground zero, just trying to bring you up to a place of just like they're gonna kick you out of your plantations, they're gonna kick you out onto the street, and then you're gonna have to work for tips, shining shoes and shit. So it's not like they're gonna help you very much, but they're just bringing you up to like a societal level zero. and it's going to be a long climb from there, and you're going to have to fight twice as hard for twice as long. And people will always see you as different. That's what most black children hear growing up. And that's what leads to the cycles of violence and the cycles of abuse that end up resulting from people being told that they're not enough their entire life. It's bullshit. And this guy is helping. Like, fuck, man.
Nation bled and
Breaks
died
my heart.
to essentially pay that guilt off, essentially. And also you're welcome for.
And of course, that's what women are told their entire lives. That's what trans kids and gay kids and shit like that's what they're told their entire lives, that what they're feeling is not normal, or that they are somehow less than, or whatever. You know, it's every group, not every group, but lots of groups have their generational trauma, and that doesn't mean that we should all just accept it. That means that we need to do better.
For living here, because this is awesome. This country is awesome, and so that's all part of this.
It would be if we upheld the standards that I grew up under, not I grew up under, but if we extolled the standards that I believe the country was capable of when I was a naive child. If we started to become that country, I'd be happy to be patriotic again.
All of that ties into the whole kind of gay race commie victim mentality, where we are always needing.
Did he say gay rights commie mentality? What did he say?
And so, so you're welcome for living here, because this is awesome.
And he just told him, you're welcome for living here? So which side of the civil rights, or which side of the Civil War were you on, first of all? But holy fuck, man. He just fucking said that.
Nation bled and died to essentially pay that guilt off, essentially.
No, no, not to pay that guilt off. Holy fucking shit.
And also, you're welcome for living here, because this is awesome. This country is awesome.
Dude. Whoa, like I would, like he's looking at his laptop, like he's looking at his screen where this guy's picture is. The way that I would be looking at him. Like, that's, he's looking at his picture on the screen. He's looking at his fucking face that just is begging to be punched. Like, holy shit, dude. Oh my god. I don't understand why you're doing this to yourself. He wants to hurt that guy so bad. He wants to fly through that computer screen. You know they're set up, like he's looking down. Fucking Christ. Whoo! Yeah, I'd need to be puffing on something too, I think, if I was going to tolerate a fucking, like, however long he had to tolerate this guy for. Probably an hour and a half for, like, his, whatever the duration of the podcast is.
Awesome. And so,
so awesome. You're welcome for living here.
That's all part of this. All of that ties into the whole kind of gay race commie victim mentality.
Gay race commie victim mentality? What the fuck does that mean? Gay race commie mentality? I guess because everyone's gay and everyone's upset about race and everyone's a commie? What? I don't understand. What is he saying?
Where we are always needing payments. We need a victim.
What? You mean like needing payments? Gay race commies with victim mentalities needing payments. What the fuck are you talking about, dude?
We need a victim status to...
Look at this. He doesn't want to be there. Oh, man. He's so upset.
The parade. But my question for you would be with regard to first principles on the matter. Like,
he says, You're welcome for living here. He's like, what is it? He was saying like, most Black Americans would thank us for enslaving them, and then dying to protect that enslavement, and then framing it like he somehow let them go, he didn't lose the war. And then he said, "You're welcome for living here, by the way. I can't believe you want reparations." What the fuck?
Is it problematic for blacks and whites to willingly segregate? Is that, what would you say today? Like, is that what's the way forward?
He's just so testing the waters right now. I wonder if these guys have to interact like in person at any point, because he would get punched. I would hope. I don't hope that somebody gets punched, but it just feels like he really wants to. It really feels like he wants to.
Blacks and whites, should they willingly segregate, or should they just come together? Should we have a natural, should we seek to
this guy, dude, like, what the fuck does not... He wants this guy to shut the fuck up. Like, he does not want to listen to him anymore.
Continue the integration experiment, or is there like a...
It's just, he's wearing that on his face so visibly.
It seemed, I couldn't tell exactly what you...
Did you see the hard swallow? He did like the thing, like the thing. He did like the thing where he's like, you know, like when you're resolving yourself, you're like, but you can't shake your head because otherwise they would see, you know, you do that.
An experiment, or is there like a I couldn't tell exactly what you were... I haven't finished the document.
And then the hard swallow, like, fuck, man, I have to look at you again. I have to pretend like I'm here and cordial and shit.
Serious, I don't know where you're going with it. But I couldn't tell, like, what's the outcome of...
He only smiled with the corner of his mouth, too.
Of kind of some of these first principles that you're playing with, this idea of Babel and forced integration and all that kind of stuff. Listen up, Christian...
He didn't even let him talk again! He went right into an ad!
And conservatives hate us.
Why do... I guess because the FDA can't regulate things like... Or not, because they choose not to regulate supplements or something. But you see guys like this always hawking coffee. It's always coffee or tea or kombucha. Not kombucha. They wouldn't touch kombucha. Or like some fucking like energy drink or some bullshit. Like always. I don't get it. I don't understand the whole thing. It's very Alex Jonesy. This guy, this Hitler man, the Hitlerman. Oh, he's definitely a villain.
You roll out of bed, you grab your morning, and HR department's filled with crime.
He's using a stock photo. This man makes millions of dollars a year, and he's using a stock fucking photo. Go fuck yourself. Ah!
Everywhere, and we hate you.
Everything that you stand for.
HR is watching.
I start my day with Montana Coffee Company.
But so you don't like HR departments? They're there to protect you. They're there to protect the owner of the company. I'll just assume what he was talking about.
Order today.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't have any kind of prescriptive,
Right, because you're just in it to make money. I get it.
mass solutions, if you will, or even
Or even the final solution. Nobody has the final solution except for this guy.
even a prescriptive solution for policy or the government.
And he really doesn't want to say that we should resegregate. He really doesn't want to say that. He doesn't want to be on video saying that. He doesn't want his name out there with him saying that. He's choosing his words very carefully.
How do I word this?
I'm a really good behaviorist. I should be a behaviorist. I should be someone who does that, like, well, his body language is... I'm trying to talk like the Jim Can't Swim guy. Well, his body language is saying that he is turn his hips to the right, which often indicates deception. Even though that's all bullshit, like I'd be down to do it. I mean, but so is chiropractor stuff, but people go to them all the time, so I don't know. I don't think he's gonna play into it. I don't think he's gonna be. I think that he probably didn't know that he was gonna say all that shit. Why? Fix your fucking tie, you absolute fucking donkey piece of shit. Fix your fucking tie. What a goddamn goober. What a goddamn unprofessional ass, milquetoast, Hitler Youth piece of shit with DBZ thing with 2 kids? What the fuck? Fuck is his mug? It's weird.
Other than to repeal many of the adverse and detrimental laws that are on the books.
So segregation once again, and anti-discrimination laws. So I think what it is like he's against, like, he hates gay people. You know, he hates gay people. That's what it is. He hates gay people, and he wants to be able to use the Bible to justify hating gay people, and he wants the law to agree with him because they first started talking about a gay wedding cake. And so he hates gay people. He doesn't like, he's a Christian. He went on to what he believes to be another Christian's podcast to talk about how the Civil Rights Act, being able to or not being able to discriminate based on sexual orientation, is a detriment to society. And he folded in, this Hitler guy folded in the black people thing, and then made him sit there while he didn't apologize. He said most black people are thankful for slavery, or should be anyway, and to then say you're welcome and that you don't deserve any reparations or the law that was inspired by, you know, the the ending of all of that. He's willing to give up civil rights to get at gay people. That's what I mean. He's willing to have his own rights taken away because he hates gay people so much.
Again, as a believer in freedom of association, the decision of who one associates with or don't associate with is left up to them, not me.
So they kept talking about this in the beginning, which is why I think I think it's a gay thing, gay or trans thing. I don't think it's a black or white thing, because he wouldn't. I have to believe that he would not have come on this podcast if he knew that this guy was going to make him sit there and let him say you're welcome for slavery with a straight face, with any kind of straight face at all whatsoever. Like I don't know if it's obvious, but I'm not black. Like I'm sorry, I don't know if that was obvious to anyone who's new to the stream, anyone who's out there who just randomly. I don't know if it's obvious, but I'm not black. I just happened to grow up in a black neighborhood. I went to a predominantly black elementary, junior high, and high school, and I lived in, I guess you could say, the hood for most of my life. And so I just happened to be present when people were learning about all of their history, and like I happened to absorb a lot of that. I wouldn't say that I have my N-word card yet, because I don't currently involve myself in the black community as much as I guess I used to when I was a kid. But you know, maybe one day, maybe I can get back out there. You know, I'll join the NAACP chapter in my neighborhood. You know, why not? Why the heck not? You know,
I only have control over whom I associate with.
NAACP. Why would it have to be the NAACP? I don't know why. I don't know why I went to the NAACP.
But whether one wants
There's
to,
there's plenty of organizations that are black community focused. I went like to the big one.
Based on race, based on sex, based on like-mindedness, that should be left up to them. Not
I mean, right. I mean, you're morons. I think is my assessment of this entire situation here. You guys are both fucking morons. You guys are both just idiots, and you don't realize that you're allowed to have whatever views that you want. You just can't do anything in the public space that restricts the freedoms of another individual. That's it. You can still associate with homophobes and racists all you want. You just can't conduct business that way under the government auspices, and you just can't make a law or you can't make a policy that goes against that law. That's it. Why does such... It's always insecurity that makes people feel like they have to say, no blacks. If you make your place inhospitable to a certain group of people, chances are they won't show up. But also, like, why do you give a shit? Why are you so NAACP has been led by by white people before. Yeah, but it's not my place, you know? That's what I was saying earlier with voting in the government. Yeah. I feel like I don't see the problem with a white person leading an organization like the NAACP if they have the community's best interests in mind. And if they have that lived experience that puts them in the best position to lead the NAACP. Totally fine. Doesn't matter the color of their skin. But I think the ability to vote is just I don't really think we should have governments, man. Like, if I'm operating on like my cinematic universe for the United States of America CU, the USA CU for short, like I wouldn't even have government. Like I wouldn't have like an actual government. I would have very small municipalities that are in charge of like keeping infrastructure running. But other than that, it would be like mostly community focused. Like we would have like, it would only be mostly be public works and things like emergency services and infrastructure. Like they wouldn't handle things like the gay wedding cake thing. That would not be something that would be a law or whatever. You would just be a society that didn't have to worry about that. Because ideally, we would have, ousted the racists and the homophobes and the transphobes and all that. They would have just left because either they didn't like our environment, they didn't like our vibe, or because people just didn't like them anymore. And they were like, we're not going to sell to you. We're not going to let you buy from us. I think if we were to reintroduce some level of discrimination, then it should be based on freedom of association, like you should be still free to associate. But if you're a Nazi, then I can decline to sell to you. I know that things are like that now, but you know what I'm saying? Like they could make that official. That'd be cool, just be able to say no Nazis allowed. And then anyone who reveals themselves to be, you take a picture of them, you post them on your wall, and you say, no Nazis allowed. Here's a wall of Nazis, Like I said, people still do that, I'm sure, somewhere. But make it official, We did the rest. Why not put stochastic terrorism there too,
Some influencer or documentary filmmaker or whomever. There are a lot of people who have this kind of ethno view of white should be with whom they want to be, and black people should only be with black people, and that's fine if you want that. I mean,
see, he is distancing himself. He did not know that this was what he was going to walk into. This is the hope on his face, and we're at 10 something. Versus the utter despair.
And I don't believe that it is right or constitutional for the government to come in and try to break it up or sabotage it or whatever the case may be.
Well, it didn't have to be, but we agreed on all this at the time that we voted it into law. And you could contact your local representatives to contact their state representatives or whoever, and introduce a bill into Congress that says no more Civil Rights Act. Like, you could probably vote to try and strike it down, and if you have a big enough coalition with a big enough voice and they get enough support behind them, it might pass. That's fucking democracy, baby. You're just playing in it, and if this is the propaganda push. But if you were actually real people, I mean, they're not like AI or anything, but I mean, if you were real people and not living NPCs, right? Like incels always like to say, then maybe I would assume that this is all an impassioned plea to try and change the way that things operate in society, but it's not. It's all, what is this? What do they call them? Sock puppets. They're all sock puppets. Shells. Probably AI. I'm kidding. I know that he's not AI because I've seen like where he does live streams where he's walking around and shit. This guy's AI.
People should be free to associate how they please.
They can. They are. Anything else? Do you have any other concerns about the law, Civil Rights Act? You can associate with whoever you want. If you want to go to a KKK chapter, you're more than welcome to do so. There's no law preventing that. Any other questions? No, nothing about legal stuff. Okay.
That's interesting because I mean that was a big hullabaloo. A few months ago there was, I can't remember the guy's name, but he wanted to buy. What?
You're talking about in Arkansas?
Yeah. The guy who wanted to buy up some land and do a whites only town or something like that. And I had a bunch of what?
He should be able to do it.
Yeah, that's what I was discussing, and it was
he can. In that he can't necessarily say whites only, because that would imply discrimination. But what you can do is you can just make it so that all of your policies require basically the person to be white. Like just look at all the different like stereotypes that exist, because you'd probably be that type of person, and then you just make all of your living policies of your town and shit like that specific to white people, and I mean, like, you can get pretty specific. You can be like Anglican, you can be like, oh, I if you're from this region, like, we prefer people from this region, like, and like never make it overtly racist, and you can probably get by with that. And yeah, like I mean, I said that before main event, I said that you should be allowed to be whatever you want to be and declare it proudly in the public square. I mean, yeah, you'll probably get beat up and you'll probably get ousted from society, but that's the way that it should work. You shouldn't have to lie. If you're a Nazi, don't lie about it. Just be a Nazi. If you want to do blackface, go do blackface.
Interesting because, like, based on
there's no law
a
against
few more
that.
interviews from that guy, and I definitely would not want to go be a part of his town personally. But to your point, I thought to myself, like, that makes sense. Like, I wouldn't oppose a black person going to do that, but because we have been so categorized in, liberal egalitarianism, like, that's just the air that we breathe. That's the
egalitarianism is just pushing for equity in democracy. Wanting civil services and wanting people to be taken care of. It's weird. Why would you be opposed? Why would anyone be opposed to that?
water that we've been swimming in for,
as long as you cause zero harm to anyone, I don't think they should get beat up. Well, we can agree to disagree on that. I don't mind sounding more militant than you. I do believe that all Nazis should get beaten up. They should definitely get their ass handed to them. Especially the unabashed ones.
Decades, at this point, centuries, you could argue.
Without legal consequence. Unless they are permanently physically harmed, then like, but a punch to the face, unless they land on a curb or something and get a massive contusion or like get a brain hemorrhage or some shit, they'll be fine. And for me, I would just want to do a little jab, just a little like, you know, just like a little little cat bat, but with my fist. Just definitely punch your local Nazi. Definitely punch a Nazi. And before a crowd descends on you. I'm kidding. This is a hypothetical. I am not actually advocating for violence. I would never do that. I'm not a violent person, but I wish I could punch Nazis sometimes. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Free speech is a two-way street. But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're gonna say Nazi shit, there's definitely somewhere out there who's gonna run up and punch you. Sneeko got attacked in Chicago. He got attacked, or in New York, for some. I think he was saying something about incels, or I don't remember what he was saying, but he was saying something about some group that gets angry. And he should know. He's like one of the founders of a group that gets angry enough to like dox people and shit.
It strikes someone as immediately off. Like if they hear that, I want to go start a whites only town. And I was asking lots of different, people in different circles, like, hey,
God, what a way to legitimize what it is you're trying to say. I was just talking to a bunch of people in all of my social circles about this, and they all agree.
Do you think that in principle that this is okay? And the gut reaction for a lot of people was no, that's not good. That's not okay. That shouldn't be allowed. And
no, see, this is like the world that he wants to pretend that he lives in, where it's all spirited discussion between people who disagree fundamentally on different things. But no, that's not the world that he lives in. He lives in a world of people who all believe the same things that he does. So this is just a thing that he's making up. He's just making just random shit up.
But I just kept thinking to myself, and this was partly after reading.
And a guy like this, who's probably all of 5'2", would not be going to like a bar and asking people this, because someone's going to hear him and punch him in the face.
In Caldwell's Age of Entitlement, like, that just doesn't seem right. Like, it doesn't seem right to have this manufactured top-down unity. And that's why I appreciated you doing the Babel thing, because it's like,
in what way was it ever manufactured? The Civil Rights Act is fucking law. Are you fucking stupid? Like, the Civil Rights Act is a law that was required to be made because racists were discriminating an entire industry. If you're not familiar, the restaurant industry, but most services were built to exploit freshly freed slaves and their children. Like, society was not really treating blacks with the most respect. And so we needed these laws. Otherwise, it wasn't gonna fucking happen. What's up, going down? You say goose like you know me. What's up? We can get to know each other.
that's what that is. That's like this manufactured top-down unity.
And no, if it takes a law in order to make it happen, then sure, it might absolutely be manufactured. But if we needed it, then fuck, dude. Like, just let it happen. Like, if you're not affected by it, meaning if you're not truly racist, if you're not truly a Nazi, if you're not truly, trying to get these people either eradicated or out of your society, then you probably wouldn't mind a law like that existing. If they say you're not allowed to be racist anymore, why would anyone have a problem with that? Why do you have a problem? If they made the law say exactly what basically people think that the Civil Rights Act was, if they made the law say you're not allowed to be racist anymore, what would be the problem with that? I'm just asking questions. What would be the problem? No answer. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
That that doesn't work. It actually is far better. Like, who wants to know that my neighbors are my neighbors because they're essentially at gunpoint, or like, you know what I mean? Like, who wants
A scathing takedown of Christianity? What? Like, you know, that's what your faith is, right? That's what God is. Love me or go to hell. Which is, you know, I mean, yes, that's a what about, but like, I just feel weird that he's saying that right now. Like, that's what Christianity is. If you don't believe, you go to hell. So you want to force people, but you also don't want to be forced.
wants to know that?
Right.
You know?
Or serving you, for that matter. If somebody doesn't like
you. Yes, that's exactly right.
If somebody doesn't like the fact that I'm a heavily melanated man, and they are in the business of making cheeseburgers, and I have a hankering for a cheeseburger, I'd rather know they don't like the color of my skin. Because
that's a little bit of a weird way of twisting it, but that's clever. I guess knowing that this place doesn't want to serve black people. What he's saying is that if he knows that a place like this doesn't want to serve black people, then he can rest more assured knowing that they haven't fucked with his meal, or knowing that they're not gonna like passively talk shit. I only assume, like, what harm can come from them not liking you but still being forced to serve you? Like, would they treat you hostilely? Like, what kind of environment are we envisioning here? Because there's also laws that prevent people from tampering with food, and places are regularly inspected for like health and safety violations. So I would think that with the risk of such oversight, there would be less likelihood for someone to do something fucked up to someone who happens to be a heavily melanated man. Weird way to describe that. I think he was just being cute, but
because I would rather not have my food spat on.
You see what I'm saying? Like, you just have to assume that food places are not going around, but that workers in food places, by and large, are doing things like that, which is just not a thing. There have been maybe like, and you know, there's security cameras everywhere in a restaurant, right? Like, that's weird. Dog, they poisoned Jordan food during the finals. I mean, one case in how many meals that are served across the country in that one venue alone. One case is not indicative of a whole thing, especially if it's targeted, dude. Come on. But like, people who do that are so few and far between that it's insane to assume that an entire industry poisons food purposefully, maliciously,
or whatever the case may be.
That's just not a thing that happens with any kind of frequency.
I'd rather give my money to people who are like-minded, people who share my values. So for me.
But see, this is the statement that everyone's going to gloss over from this entire exchange. You'd rather give your money. Yeah, I don't give a shit about Jordan. And yes, one case. No evidence. I didn't say no evidence of anything. One case certainly does not make an entire... One instance of something doesn't make a case for an entire thing. It's just like people saying that the Bible validates Christianity. It certainly does not.
Like, I discriminate, you discriminate, we all discriminate.
Admitting that doesn't mean that you are just like everybody else. Not everybody discriminates. I don't discriminate except based on personality. If you have a shitty personality, I probably will not associate with you.
On a daily basis, discrimination is not an inherent bad thing.
Unless it's based on race.
And we look at social cues to determine whom we will associate with and whom we will not associate.
Or the basis of the criticism. And if the basis of the criticism is because he's black, then you know to dismiss that.
With. And so for the government, to your point, to force people at gunpoint to associate.
I mean, it's a civil law. It has nothing to do with being at gunpoint. If they can poison Jordan, they can poison me. I mean, Jordan has what, like one security detail? Like he's a retired basketball celebrity. Like, I know that you respect him, but like he's not hard to get to. I would say if a public servant, who's also a public figure had been gotten to, then I guess I would be concerned for the safety of our public figures. But everyday food safety for you as just a normal consumer, not at risk. There is, gosh, I would say like maybe, god damn, I'll have to look that up, that statistic. Hang on. Approximately 48 million people, or 1 in 6 Americans, will suffer from foodborne illness annually. You don't think his food goes through a thing? No. Come on, man. You're giving celebrities way too much. What is it? You're assuming that celebrities are way more protected than they are. Do you think that all food? I did Google COINTELPRO. I already know what it is. I commented on it. I said, yeah, we had the Office of Propaganda. I was just discussing propaganda the other day on stream. He was talking about the joint U.S. task force that essentially was tasked with destabilizing populations in America. That's why we have the Chicago Crime Center. War on drugs, stop and frisk with the planting of crack in, what was it, New York? Boroughs? In LA? Yeah, come on. It goes back further than that. World War I, we were testing like fucking syphilis or some shit on like Tuskegee Airmen or some shit. But I mean, it was propaganda. I mean, I know it was overt acts, but that serves as propaganda. That serves as a way to fundamentally destabilize groups in America. We may disagree on terms, but we're saying the same thing.
Associate whether they want to or not. Again, it breeds a kind of distrustfulness, and just fakery, quite honestly.
No, you're faking. If you're faking and you don't like white people or you don't like gay people or whoever, if you are doing that, then okay, then you're faking. Other people are not faking. When a white person looks at you and smiles, they're not pretending to be nice. Holy shit. That was killing of peaceful people during the civil rights. Right, to make what statement? I'm not familiar with the name Hampton. Fred Hampton. All of this during civil rights. Yeah, no shit. To what? To destabilize populations. Yes, we both know what that is. Thank you. I promise. I did look it up. I don't think I put it on screen, but I did look it up.
And so yeah, I mean, so yes, if you want to go start your blacks only town or your whites only town, you should be able to do so. And it doesn't really matter what.
For all intents and purposes, again, there's nothing preventing anybody from starting a whites or blacks only town. You just can't. If you are overtly, like if you're being overtly segregated, then the law might have a problem with that, and then someone might sue you. But if you're not hurting anyone, if you're just keeping to yourself and you happen to have whites only policies, like where you only really rent spaces to white people where you require that people like show up in person, like to make business deals so that you can see the color of their skin, so you can actively segregate. Sure, yes, you can do that. It's not, I mean, it's a legal loophole, and I wouldn't recommend it, but you definitely can do that. It definitely ain't propaganda to kill a peaceful man in his sleep. Again, you and I may disagree over terms, but the killing of that man was both to do something and to send a message to his followers, which is propaganda. COINTELPRO that is illegal to the highest order. What is illegal? It's not illegal if you're not sharing the reason for it. Like, I'm saying that a person could absolutely just pick white people to live there. There's no, I wouldn't assume, I don't know for sure, I mean, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I don't know for sure if there's like a quota for like rural towns or like living communities that are made up of like fucking container houses. Or occupying ghost towns. I don't know if those are still around, but they could be. I assume that's what you were saying was illegal.
My opinion is as to whether I like that town or not. I don't have to live there.
Yeah, that's right.
You
That's
know?
the whole point. That's the whole point.
Right, but they didn't go into your town and then say, okay, this is a white only town, now get out. Which is what y'all are doing to the rest of America.
Just to wrap up on that point, and then we'll get into see if there's some super chats and some Q&A here.
Well, yeah. You just can't say that it's a white town. You can't be overt in your messaging. Are you describing trailer parks? Yeah, we got boatloads of them out in the country. There's plenty of black people who live in trailer parks, man. There's plenty of all different colors and creeds that live all around the park.
But there is one place where top-down unity is required, and I believe that is in the Church of Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only.
Oh, so the one thing that he says that supports this man being black, the one thing he says is that the only theater that we're equal in is in Christianity. Jesus fucking Christ, man.
Place where it works.
But even there.
That's the one place where integration works. That's the one place where all races can truly be equal.
You're there voluntarily.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, so.
He's even pushing back. He even made the point. He actually made the point he should have made fucking 5 minutes ago. Oh my god. I would punch this man happily. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I would not punch anybody, but I would also hypothetically punch this man too because of how he's acting.
So, and let me tease that out. What I mean by that is, like, there can never be a faithful church that says, no, you may not worship here because of some immutable characteristic of yours. If you are a baptized Christian, like, come and welcome to Jesus Christ. That must be the attitude.
What happens if the church is in a white-only neighborhood? How does that work? I gotta wonder.
You know, we have quote-unquote black churches or whatever, but I don't think any black church would ever turn me away, that I know of, would turn me away at the door. I don't know, maybe there are.
I'm sure there are a few. I am dead certain that there are a few that would turn you away.
Are some really nasty ones out there.
What the fuck? Nasty churches? You just can't resist. You just can't resist at all. He's unable to resist.
I don't know, but generally speaking, we are all brothers and sisters in Christ ultimately.
He just can't accept that. He just can't accept that, like, in on earth life, only in heaven life, because that's where Hitler's gonna be. right? Because Hitler was a Christian. So there you go.
right? And so, but we
you go.
can't. So that's true. We need to hold that in our hand. That's true, and it's also true that we cannot manufacture that outside of the church. We
Right.
can't manufacture that. You and I, Chad, are brothers in Christ, and we are adopted into the family of
But I don't want you living in my neighborhood or in my country unless you are property.
God, and there, yeah. Anyway, so we have brotherhood there, but whenever we go into the civil realm and try to manufacture that onto, especially in our current day and age,
It just doesn't make sense, does it? Like he's trying so hard to rationalize it, but it just sounds so disjointed. It sounds so out of the realm of what his teachings tell him. And they're telling us, screaming in our faces, that he shouldn't be saying this. Because it is so against what he's talking about. He's so against the thing he's saying that he is, which is a follower of Christ. Today is the big A birthday. Antonio Banderas? Oh, America's birth. I get it.
age where, like in our country, we're an apostate nation. We're no longer.
You mean Hitler? Adolf.
We're a Christian nation anymore. Unfortunately,
I was trying
We
to
have
figure out what
Christian
A
roots, and I
meant.
believe, but we are repenting, and I believe we will come back to the Lord Jesus Christ. But ultimately, right now, if we try to force that, we saw what happened whenever we tried to force it, and the fruit was rotten
Right.
of that whole project.
So ending segregation and preventing discrimination is bad.
100%. But this must be said, lest you and I be accused of utopianism in our own right.
God damn, I thought he was going to be self-aware. I thought he was going to do one self-aware thing, and he just didn't. He went right back into the script.
With respect to everybody should just live and let live. I'm not.
No, this guy has been saying the entire time that that's not what we should be doing. He said you're welcome for being slaves. He said you're welcome. He said you are welcome. Most black people in America, he said just about every black person in America should be thankful for slavery. Thankful.
I'm not saying live and let live. Please understand that. I believe that we have dominion as Christians.
Right. And I'm sure he believes the same thing. I'm sure Hitler believes the same thing. Just over you. Just he has more of it than you do.
And we're given a great commission to go into the earth and to preach Christ and Him crucified in the
I come with a sword, right? To make sure that anyone who doesn't believe in Christ fucking dies.
baptized in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And so, whether you have your white town or your black town, or whether you're
I'll sacrifice every one of my morals. I'll sacrifice every one of my scruples so that I can hate gay people and white people and whatever the fuck else. Religions. I'll give everything up just so I can be hateful. Fuck you.
separated by a border from this nation or that nation, glory be to God that there has been missionaries who have gone and preached the gospel of
Yeah, I mean, it's Stockholm Syndrome, for sure. Generational.
Christ to the nations, irrespective of how hostile or open a society or a people are. Glory be to God that I live in a town where we have a huge kind of linguistic or Bible translation school, and these people, they translate the Bible in languages that you've never heard of before, and they preach and teach the gospel in different languages, and that's needed, right? But to your point, it's not by force, it's by teaching and speaking and preaching the gospel. And so that's needed. We have dominion, and so we want to go and proclaim Christ everywhere.
See, this guy is seeming a lot more measured than Mr. Joshua Hames is. Obviously, this guy is high on cocaine. He can't fucking sit still. But also, he very clearly did not come on here to talk about how much shame he feels over being black. And I don't think that they were really prepped well, that he was prepped well on this this guy's like history or what he does. And so he's kind of just floundering right now, trying to make the best out of this point that he's been making.
Where people are going to have their divisions, people are going to have, associate with whom they wish to associate. However, when you try to use this kind of fake, counterfeit gospel to coerce the government, to use taxpayer dollars to build the utopian society you wish to build, I'm against it, and that's the reason why I'm against King. That's the reason I'm against the whole civil rights industry. And I have a job.
Hold on, let me try to understand more what he was saying.
This kind of fake, counterfeit gospel to coerce the government, to use taxpayer dollars to build the utopian society you wish to build.
So he's mad at King because he was a pastor, and he was using Bible verses to help people understand why they shouldn't be racist and why they should allow for civil rights to happen, and that the civil rights industry was somehow only in it for money. And he believes that
I'm against it, and that's the reason why I'm against King. That's the reason I'm against the whole civil rights industry.
Okay, well, I don't really understand, I guess, what his gripe is. He just thinks that it's fake, that it was just them trying to use the gospel to use our tax dollars to make people not be able to be racist in public spaces.
And I have a job and I have a duty as an alien and a stranger here to preach Christ and Him crucified, but also have the...
What?
That's the reason I'm against the whole civil rights industry. And I have a job and I have a duty as an alien.
They technically were, I mean, yeah, not only for monetary gain and not only to trick people. They were doing it, well, not to trick people. Like, King was saying gospel lines because he believed what they were saying. And civil rights was implemented because it needed to be implemented. I'm sure a lot of companies benefited from pushing that forward. But two things are possible. I'm sure there's evil, soulless corporations who benefit from the ways we capitulate, according to these guys. But that's not I wouldn't know if it's the majority or not, but it's mixed in with a bunch of other companies that do it because it's the right thing to do. Good things benefit society, damn it.
Alien and a stranger here to preach Christ and Him crucified.
So he's an alien. Is that something a lot of Christians say, that they're aliens? I have not heard that. Oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have begun to know what his actual policy plans were. I do not know. But I don't mind if it was going to use tax dollars if it helps people. That's the thing. Like, I don't care if 30% of my paycheck goes to government services as long as they benefit people. I could give a shit. I'd be happy about that. I mean, I don't mind if pay were high enough that I could make all my bills, cover my rent, and my utilities were potentially covered by the government or something like that, in the way that in my government MCU. Then it would be like, you'd have all your shit taken care of, and you would be able to not have to miss that money that you're paying in taxes. Or, I mean, you'd be paid high enough that it wouldn't matter. Either way, one of those solutions would be happening to people in my America. It would truly be a utopia. but it's because you have you got to control that. You know, you have to have like some limitations. You know, and that's why my version of America would be like repressive and shit. I wouldn't want to be a leader, and I wouldn't want anyone to live in the country that I was a leader of. I don't know what's best for everybody. All I know is I want people to be happy and well-fed and well-adjusted. Gosh darn it. He had a plan to get everyone paid legally and statistically reasonable for anyone in black community, white people included. They didn't do it. Okay, well, then if it was going to benefit everybody else, then they should have. Gosh darn it. Hey.
But I also have the responsibility as a citizen to preserve the true edicts of not only America, but Western civilization in general.
Which are to say thank you for enslaving us? Seems backward. But I'll trust him. If that's what he wants on his tombstone. All right, main event. I think it is about that time. I must get some chores out of the way, and then I gotta get dinner ready and all that kind of shit, so we're going to cut the stream off here. Thank you so much for hanging out. Skippy, I know you've been lurking on and off, but if you're still here, thank you for hanging out. We'll be back in tomorrow. It was short and sweet today. It was a short one, it was a sweet one, but we still went for 3 hours. So there you go. So yeah, have a good one, guys. Enjoy your day. Get some sun. Don't get too much. Here's the results of that poll. And stop in again tomorrow if you want. Okay, bye-bye. Yeah, main event. I'm glad you were here the whole time. Thank you.